Part 31. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 309. The two people running towards the twin apartments were not wearing the same clothes as the general public, but combat uniforms. The two sets of urban camouflage uniforms could not hide their figures from the zombies. A man and a woman, the man's name is Kyle Cran, and the woman's name is Wan Kyanglin. They are not locals in Harlan City, but smugglers who walked into Harlan City through the sewers. Originally, they were carrying firearms, but they underestimated the number of Harlan virus-infected people in the sewers. Soon, the submachine guns and pistols were empty and thrown into the sewers. The two returned to the ground with great difficulty. Although they were gray and embarrassed, they were lucky not to be injured. Returning to the ground means getting rid of those night walkers and night demons who are afraid of the sun, but there are still some plague demons who are not afraid of the sun chasing behind them, and they don't know what the current situation in Harlan City is. So when they ran on the main road, they inevitably attracted the biters and other plague demons on the road, resulting in so many Harlan virus-infected people following behind them. Their goal was to find a contact person at the Gemini apartments. But with so many zombies following them, they were in a dilemma, wondering whether to go to the meeting point. Just then, a huge explosion sounded in the opposite direction of them, causing the zombies behind them to stop unconsciously. For a moment, they didn't know whether to continue chasing the two people or go to the place where the explosion came from. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the two people who had a clear goal and dared not stop got rid of many plague demons. A plague demon jumped out of the alley and rushed towards Kellen, knocked him down, and was about to bite his forearm. At this time, Amir's figure appeared from the other side, gave the plague demon that pounced on Kellen a baseball bat, and saved him. "Hurry up! Go this way!" Amir pulled Kellen up and was about to take him into the house area to use the vents there to get rid of the enemy. Kellen and Wan Kyanglin's eyes lit up, and Amir was their contact person. Amir obviously didn't expect that these two people were the contact persons mentioned by the superiors, but now there is no time for them to meet and exchange information. Although Harris asked Amir and Jade to act together, Amir suggested to Jade that they act separately, he would help the two, and she would press the trap. The explosion was not caused by the tower forces installing and detonating a huge bomb, but by a speaker, which was convenient for recycling and had multiple sound options. Pulling open the iron door, Amir entered first, and immediately closed the door after seeing Kran and the others come in. Kran quickly picked up the iron rod beside him and stuck it on the door handle. "What are you doing? This door opens inwards." "Push that cabinet over quickly." Amir spat out blood in his heart. "Who was sent by the superior?" Kran apologized quickly, and he and Wan Kyanglin pushed a cabinet next to them hard, but they were a step slower. The plague demons arrived and started to knock on the door directly. Amir couldn't stand it alone, and the iron door was knocked half open. Originally, he was holding the door lock for convenience and effort, but a big gap was left after the collision, and the plague demons reached in and went straight to Amir's middle. He naturally couldn't continue to hold the door, so he immediately retreated to avoid the attack of the plague demons, and then turned around and ran to the second floor. "Follow me," he didn't forget to call Clan and the others when he ran. Although these plague demons and night demons can parkour, their turning ability is much weaker than that of humans. Amir planned to use the corner of the stairs to reduce the speed of the plague demons' pursuit. The plague demons chased behind him, taking one step or two steps and then bumping into him at the corner of the stairs. The plague demons behind him couldn't stop, and they bumped into each other, blocking the stairs. The three of them took the opportunity to finally get rid of the plague demons. But Amir didn't take them back to the ground because of this. He told them to look carefully at the landing point, and then jump directly to the rooftop of another house 3 meters away. Wan Kyanglin jumped over without hesitation, but Clan stopped at the roof. "Hey! Jump over!" Amir was anxious for Kran. The best option was to run and jump over here, but the opponent stopped and did not jump over with the forward force of running. Kyle, I'll catch you, come over quickly. Wan Kyanglin looked at Kran with a worried and anxious look. A voice came from behind, and the plague demon appeared on the roof. Kran looked back, gritted his teeth, stepped back a few steps, then rushed to the rooftop opposite and jumped up. This idiot! How could I have such a person? Wan Kyanglin cursed in her heart, rushed over and grabbed Kran, who jumped over with his eyes closed. Help! Kran stepped on the air, but fortunately Wan Kyanglin grabbed his hand and didn't fall down and break his leg. Amir went to help, and he and Wan Kyanglin pulled Kran up together. Hurry up! Amir didn't have time to curse, and continued to move forward with the two of them. In the end, they finally left only a few enemies behind them. There was no need to run any further as there were only a few left. The three of them eliminated the enemies following them in a room. Are you all right? Amir did not ask if they were bitten. People nowadays are so selfish that they would not easily say if they were bitten. Kran and the other man nodded and replied that they were fine. Then let's go back and talk later. No, we are in a hurry to complete the mission. Kran stretched out his hand to stop Amir and continued, please give us the key. He. Amir pointed to the dusk-stained sky and said, I have hidden the key and it is not on me. And it is almost dark now. If you don't want to die in vain, just listen to me. Kellen wanted to say something else and wanted to show his tough side in front of his girlfriend, but was stopped by Wan Kyanglin. Wan Kyanglin, who knew more information than Kellen, said, I'll listen to you. Amir nodded with satisfaction, first contacted Jet through the walkie-talkie, and then they returned to the twin apartment together. With similar treatment to Luo Guang, Amir still brought the newcomer to meet with the leader of the tower force. Because the clothes the two of them wore were different from ordinary civilians, he used the excuse of being a military enthusiast. And with Amir talking by his side, Harris didn't have any doubts. Then Amir took Luo Guang with him. After the four introduced each other, he led the three to an empty room. Regarding the explanation that Kellen and Wan Kyanglin were military fans and therefore dressed in military attire, Luo Guang nodded to express his understanding. Kellen was indeed a bit like a military enthusiast. The camouflage uniforms and gun holsters worn by the two men were from big brands and were not cheap. Crane looks very much like the kind of student who comes out of a tactical training class. His movements have not yet formed muscle memory, and he is very green. Wan Kyanglin looks more like a domestic practitioner than a soldier, but the two are in a relationship, so the woman may be playing with Kellen. After placing Amuro, Luo Guang, Amir took the other two people to the room opposite Luo Guang. Wan Kyanglin walked at the end. She looked to her left, right, and behind her before following her through the door, then closing the door and locking it. Where's the key? Crane asked as soon as the door closed. The other party's irritable look made Amir frown. You just joined. Do you understand the rules? After all, they were not engaged in espionage work during the war. Both sides had photos and information of their contacts, but there was a disguise technique in the world, so they had to deal with a wave of secret codes. Amir is not afraid of the two opponents attacking him. If the opponent's goal is the key, then his life will not be in danger, because the key is really not with him. Let me do it. Wan Kyanglin asked Crane to calm down. Just as Amir said, Crane was an agent who had just debuted. The reason why Parkland carried out this task was that the organization felt that his genes had great potential, and planned to use this task to temper the opponent and stimulate his potential. Amir looked at Wan Kyanglin and took out the special mobile phone given by the organization. Wan Kyanglin also took out her mobile phone, and the two parties used infrared communication to transmit verification codes to each other, and soon confirmed that the other party's identity was correct. This mobile phone, Crane didn't seem to know what the two of them were doing. After Wan Kyanglin explained, she comforted Crane and said, Clan, you have just joined, So your mobile phone is still being manufactured? Okay, his girlfriend said so. What else could he do? Wang Qianglin brought the topic back to the mission and asked, can you give us the key now? Didn't I tell you that the key has been hidden? Not in this room. Crane thought they were in this room, so the other party brought them here. Amir sighed and said, this disaster happened too fast and suddenly spread to the entire city of Harran. I was not at home at the time and could not go back. Wang Qianglin frowned. This mission seemed not as easy as she originally imagined. The hunch was spot on. When Crane asked where the key was hidden, Amir pointed to it and said, in room 1305 on the 13th floor, the key is in the socket board behind the TV in the living room. With that said, he threw the key to his house to Wang Qianglin. Are you going? Wang Qianglin asked after taking the key. First, I have a latent identity, and I still have to work for the forces in this tower. Second, you don't have firearms now, so you have to get familiar with the way of survival here. This is an opportunity. Although Amir did not see them in the sewer, he saw the empty quick-draw pistol holster and magazine holster on the other party. Originally, Crane and the two were still wearing tactical vests, but after they ran out of bullets, they took off their heavy vests to avoid affecting their running speed. If you can't even complete this task, I advise you to give up as soon as possible. Amir continued, anyway, you have one night to think about countermeasures and prepare, and the enemies will be weaker during the day. Find the tower leader tomorrow. The road to the 6th floor is blocked. Since they were sent by the organization, the two of them actually had no other choice. So he waved his hand and left the room after speaking, leaving the two of them to discuss it. It was getting dark soon, so Amir didn't do anything. He ran out twice and it was time to take a rest. Returning to his room and sitting on the sofa, he was thinking about his next actions, such as how to use the two clans to find the secret research institute built by his organization in this place, and then. Early the next morning, Luo Guang was ready to set off, but before that, out of courtesy, he said hello to Amir and Harris. After sending Luo Guang away, Harris was about to discuss the matter with Amir and received a message from the guard on the 5th floor. Someone went to the 13th floor and then lost contact. When Harris asked for details, Amir saw the two of them entering the office. He made a silencing gesture and listened carefully to what the guard reported on the radio. After a while, Harris stood up and said, Amir, Jade's brother ran to the 13th floor by himself. He said he was going home to get the manufacturing materials for the radio amplifier device, but now we can't contact each other. Jade's younger brother Rahim is a member of Harris's parkour team and knows radio. His main job is to assist Harris in managing the survivors in the tower and maintaining the radio station. Communication had been unable to be transmitted before. Rahim thought that the signal was interfered with, so he planned to build a signal amplifier so that the communication wave could break through. Just like Raccoon City, the Turkish Z government decided to block information about Harran City until the problem was solved, even if this would prevent the survivors in the city from contacting rescue. Because the Turkish government is worried that the biochemical crisis cannot be handled well, causing the country to make a fool of itself in the international community. The FBC side did not argue with the evidence because they were worried that people with ulterior motives would take advantage of the situation and come to snatch or steal the Harlan virus and leak it. Hiding the situation in Harlan City will make those people unsure of the situation here and dare not act rashly. Amir heard this and asked, does Jade know about this? Harris shook his head, you know Jade, how could she allow Rahim to carry out the mission? Jade is Rahim's sister. She is very protective of her younger brother and has always prohibited him from leaving the tower to participate in combat missions. This made Rahim, who was very confident in himself, very dissatisfied, so he deceived the guards and went to the 13th floor without asking for instructions. Amir sighed and was about to reply when he suddenly thought of something. He turned around and asked Kellen and Wang Qianglin, by the way, We rescued you before, how about you do us a favor? It can be considered a return of favor. Wang Qianglin saw Amir turning his back to Harris and making a 13 gesture with both hands. Combined with what the other party said last night, she understood what Amir meant. She replied, "Are you telling us to go to the 13th floor to find someone?" His girlfriend opened her mouth, and Crane closed her slightly opened mouth again. He thought carefully about his girlfriend's intentions and quickly came to his senses. This would make people less suspicious than the two of them finding various excuses to go to the 13th floor. Amir is not worried about the other party running away after taking the key, because he still has to use his mobile phone to unlock the first layer of the key. He replied, "That's right. I have to stabilize Jade, otherwise she will have to go crazy and look for her brother. Losing your cool is a big no-no. Jed and he used to be neighbors, but now they are lovers." After a few people quickly discussed some details, Amir took Crane and the others to the 5th floor. After explaining the situation to the guards there, he watched Crane and the others climb the stairs to the 6th floor. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 310. Luo Guang is about to go to the sewers to have a passionate collision with the Night Demon, and at the same time collect the Night Demon's combat information to Jill. Under the worried gaze of Timur, the guard on the 5th floor, Kellen and Wang Qianglin climbed the stairs to the upper floors. This journey for Kellen and Wang Qianglin was not going to be too easy. The reason why the tower forces stopped cleaning up to the 5th floor was because there were many enemies above. A previous cleaning operation failed and 3 people were lost. The elevator in the apartment can be used, but Amir does not recommend it because the elevator will sound a prompt when it reaches the target floor, which will attract the zombies, and there will be no escape at that time. Another point is that the apartment elevator is one of their escape lines. If a helicopter comes for rescue, they can take the elevator directly to the top floor and then go up to the rooftop. The floor below the rooftop is not an apartment, so there are not many enemies. They have already cleared it and blocked the stairs going down. But before that, I have to talk about the actions of FBC, BSAA, GIMZ, and other parties this morning. The BSAA and GIMZ joint forces that arrived here did not immediately launch a rescue operation. The first thing they did was to go to the FBC camp for a meeting, also to get familiar with the various responsible persons. Although online meetings are possible, they chose to have face-to-face meetings. This was strongly requested by the Turkish military in order to demonstrate their power and prevent others from thinking that the FBC was responsible for this biological crisis and that they could ignore Turkey's opinions. So under the auspices of the Turkish military, the FBC, BSAA, and NATO observer mission began talks. GIMZ and Tarisef, who were affiliated with BSAA, were naturally not eligible to attend the meeting, but Gil still brought Sams with him to the meeting. After these few days of communication, Jill found that Samus had many advantages and knowledge worth learning, and soon became friends with him. Although Samus and Morgan were not fighting each other, Morgan did not come here to supervise the battle, so she did not refuse Jill's invitation because she was worried about a direct conflict with Morgan. All participants are in place and the meeting begins. First, the head of the Turkish military, Kadir Süleyman, explained the current specific situation in Harran city. Now that the entire city of Harlan has fallen, we have confirmed the location of most of the survivors through the information brought back by FBC satellites and helicopters. In fact, this is a satellite lent to the FBC by the Lighthouse country. Those helicopters have previously performed missions to rescue survivors. However, several accidents occurred during the rescue process, causing the helicopter to crash, or the survivors were bitten by zombies attracted by the noise of the helicopter before the helicopter could rescue the survivors. The reason for the helicopter crash was simple. The noise would attract a large number of zombies, so the rope ladder was usually lowered to let the survivors come up. Then the survivor who mutated on the helicopter without quarantine review attacked the helicopter pilot, causing the helicopter to crash. So they have now changed their strategy and decided to clean up the enemies while searching and rescuing survivors, and have the ground troops verify the survivors' situation in real time. So those helicopters are no longer on rescue missions. Suleiman continued to explain the situation. Most of the survivors are concentrated in the new city, while the rest are distributed in civilian areas. As for the old city, we have found no traces of survivor activities for the time being. This information was basically provided by the FBC, but in fact the number of survivors in the new urban area was simply not as good as that in the civilian areas. Because the new city was the most densely populated at that time, when the biochemical crisis broke out, a large-scale stampede occurred. Naturally, it was difficult for people there to escape the bite of Harlan's zombies. The reason why FBC reported to the Turkish military that there were many survivors in the new city was to take back those dignitaries who had become plague monsters and take care of them. After the development of the serum was completed, they would be injected into these people and then seek benefits for their own organization. The Turkish military has not verified the situation. In addition to trusting the FBC, there is another reason. The brother of military chief Qadir Suleiman, Hassan, is also in the new city. He is hiding in a hotel room. Stand up. So Suleiman's next plan is to use these anti-biochemical organizations to save his biological brother, and he has already communicated with the FBC. Although the other BSAA is also an official organization, Suleiman obviously believes in the stronger FBC. After Suleiman introduced the general situation, the person in charge of the FBC took the baton from the other party, pressed the keyboard on the desktop, and switched the slide on the projection screen to the next one. He came to the projection screen, picked up the baton and pointed to the southeast corner of the new city of Harlan City, and said, "The Harlan Hotel here was specially built for this sports meeting. It has 2,000 guest rooms and a helicopter parking lot on the rooftop. Ping is the main force in receiving people from all parties this time. We found someone there using a flashlight to send out a distress signal. It was planned that the main force of the FBC would carry out the cleanup and rescue mission." The head of FBC scanned the area and confirmed that everyone was looking at him, then continued, "In addition to the cleanup and rescue missions, we will also set up a temporary rescue center on the rooftop of the hotel, mainly to confirm that the survivors are not infected." This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Jill nodded, which means setting up a transfer station, which is indeed safer. And the target of BSAA is here. The head of FBC pointed to another corner of the new city area, which is the freight center that provides various materials for the sports meeting. It's not that FBC doesn't want to send BSAA to the new city gymnasium to die and weaken the opponent's strength, but BSAA is not under their control. Even if they propose it, they will only lose face if they are rejected by the other party. In fact, the head of FBC talked to Jill and others last night, and today is just a routine notice. The truck carrying the zombies into the stadium started from here. The main goal of BSAA is to find clues. As for the large number of zombies in the stadium, FBC plans to launch a simultaneous attack in multiple directions at the end. After solving the new city area, it is the civilian area, and finally the zombies in the old city area. Everyone is a soldier with a swift and resolute style, so after assigning tasks, they will directly disperse and go back to the camp to prepare for the mission. The head of FBC and Suleiman walked together, and the two whispered to each other. "I'll trouble you with that matter." Suleiman will send his confidant to accompany FBC, and his confidant has only one goal, that is, to rescue his brother, which is also the real goal of this hotel rescue operation. The head of FBC nodded and said, "The matter of reward." Suleiman interrupted, "As long as I see my brother, I will give you the information you want with both hands." On the other side, Jill and Samus were sitting in a Hummer and driving back to the camp. "I hope we can find clues about biochemical terrorists this time," Jill said, holding the steering wheel. Samus nodded and said, "But in this matter, we should also be careful about things other than the biochemical crisis." Jill turned his head to look at the other party, then turned his eyes back to the front and said, "Are you saying that the FBC will make things difficult for us?" Exposing the true face of biochemical terrorists and attacking biochemical criminal groups is far more valuable than solving a biochemical crisis, but the FBC gave this task to us. In this biochemical crisis, it is normal for the other party to marginalize us. The bad guess is that the FBC directed and acted in this incident, so they knew that the BSAA would not find clues in the freight center. Jill thought of this, but she was helpless and said, "There are not many clues now. Even if we go to the gym to find the truck, I don't think we will find much evidence, and this may not be done by the F.B.C." Samus also knew this, so she didn't mention the FBC at the beginning. "I know, so I just remind you to pay attention to safety when performing tasks. The danger may not come from zombies, but also from people who target BSAA or people who come to destroy the body. I know. Among the people I brought, there are people who are responsible for investigation." "Do you need to investigate the FBC outside the wall?" Jill asked. "That's not necessary. We are still friendly forces now. If we take action first and the other side knows and announces it, it will only put us in a passive position." Samus shook his head and said. Just as the two of them drove back, the combatants in the BSAA camp were also preparing for battle. "I had a good rest last night, and I have to be busy from today." In order to save costs, BSAA allows combatants to purchase pistols, tactical accessories, military boots, and other equipment on their own in principle, but the self-purchased equipment must comply with the regulations and requirements of each branch. Because the location of the gun production line is different, guns with local production lines are generally selected as standard weapons. For example, in the European branch, only 9mm bullet pistols are allowed. The standard pistol uniformly equipped to soldiers by the branch is the G17C pistol. Because it is cheap and in high demand, the average purchase price is only $300 per pistol, and a matching quick-draw holster is also given. The G17C pistol is a model with a muzzle jump suppression device. At the same time, the tactical rail slot is directly attached to the position below the muzzle and above the holster, and the grip has a rubber finger sleeve. This is an improved model launched by Glock based on Luo Guang's questionnaire and the opinions of some gun experts. It is free to the BSAA European branch for old for new exchange. However, because it has just been produced not long ago, it is given priority to combatants who need to perform tasks. Another point is that the Glock pistol, as the pistol with the widest application range and the largest production volume, has served in the military and police systems of most European countries. Therefore, the military and police who have just joined the BSAA are not unfamiliar with this gun and can quickly get started. Therefore, the BSAA soldiers who are carrying out the mission this time are all using this G17C pistol. However, because of her service experience in the Lighthouse Nation, Jill uses a Beretta M92F pistol, and asked Barry to modify it for her. When Barry was in STARS, he was responsible for the adjustment of the firearms and weapons of the entire team, and he was a good friend of the owner of Robert's gun shop in Raccoon City. At that time, he and Robert also adjusted the Samurai Blade series of custom pistols for the STARS team. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. In the use of the main weapon, BSAA did not save costs, but directly chose the G36C short assault rifle of H/U0026K. The C here is different from the meaning of the G17C pistol, which means compact. The assault rifle cancelled the handle with optical sights and replaced it with a low handle-shaped sight rail with mechanical sights. It uses a shortened and foldable stock and a barrel of about 8 inches. After the stock is folded, it is about the same length as the MP5A5 submachine gun with a shortened stock. This is to facilitate the BSAA troops to perform room search tasks without having to find a separate submachine gun or pistol. The GIMZ side basically uses the same configuration as the BSAA. The Wolf team and the Echo squad are professionals, and they will not stop using it just because they have changed to a new gun. Especially Wolf Mom, her main weapon when she was in the USS was the G36 assault rifle, and she quickly adapted to the feel and recoil of the G36C. In addition, Beltway in the Wolf team is good at using shotguns, so he used an M3S90 shotgun. The sniper Sienna of the Echo squad took into account that the enemies encountered this time were more flexible and needed street fighting, so she brought a semi-automatic M21 rifle and a G18C fully automatic pistol with a 20-round magazine. Except for these two people, for the convenience of supply, the weapons of others are configured the same as those of BSAA. Because Samus conveyed the order to everyone in advance in the car, when Jill returned to the BSAA camp, she took over the equipment and weapons handed over by her subordinates, checked them carefully, and then boarded the helicopter with others. Although their destination was the freight center, in order to avoid being surrounded by zombies, they chose to land at the lake dock where there were fewer zombies, which was not far from the freight center. However, unlike FBC, because Samus was worried that FBC or other enemies would deliberately lure a large number of zombies to attack the temporary safety zone, they would not set up a temporary safety zone at the dock. Biohazard does not require division of forces. 3 BSAA transport helicopters acted at the same time, one carrying Jill's team directly to an open area, and the other 2 helicopters hovered around, providing cover for the people who were rappelling. Jill, who was rappelling quickly, held the rope in one hand to control the descent speed, and clamped the assault rifle on her waist with the other hand, aiming at the biter under her feet, and fired 3 bursts directly for safety. Others also operated in a similar way, dealing with the hungry zombies directly below. As soon as they landed, the 4 people immediately dispersed, dealt with the fish that slipped through the net approaching, and made room to cover the other group of people on the helicopter to rappel. Jill's team had a total of 8 people, so they had to rappel in 2 groups. Wolf team's Wolf Mother, Beltway, Michelle, and Victor plus 4 BSAA recruits. The Echo team had a total of 6 people in the team plus 2 BSAA recruits. The 3 teams had a total of 24 people, which was the force they sent for this rescue mission. There were more than 30 BSAA soldiers who were responsible for guarding their camps, and they were also reserve troops, so they did not set out together. Although they are called new recruits, they are actually from the military and police system. They are proficient in combat skills. What they lack now is anti-biological and chemical combat experience. After all, they are not like the FBC troops, who can use the blood plague virus zombies in Trumbull Valley to provide them with combat experience. After the Red Claws were absorbed by the FBC, the Lighthouse Army conveniently lent the combat training ground to Morgan's organization. These reserve troops will be rotated later, and they will go out to perform tasks with the GIMZ troops in batches, instead of sending them all out at once, because in that case, the GIMZ side will not be able to manage them. Contact the base and confirm the communication. Others make room to cover the friendly forces rope descent. Jill asked the rope descent team members who followed closely to contact Samus to confirm the normal operation of the communication and combat data link system. There are 2 BSAA soldiers carrying radios behind them, one of whom is a spare. The communication soldier quickly controlled the keyboard on his chest, contacted the base, and confirmed that the communication system was correct. Jill received feedback from the Signalman, and the troops on the GIMZ side in her field of vision had also completed their rope descent. The helicopter then began to retreat. Although no one was operating the fixed machine guns on both sides of the helicopter, they could still use the noise to help them lead away a group of zombies. Okay, let's go. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 311. Not long after dawn, Luo Guang had breakfast and met Harris, who had gotten up early. Harris looked a little tired because of recent events. When Luo Guang entered the room, he was yawning. "Good morning, Amuro. Thank you for letting me stay here," Luo Guang continued. "You'd better take care of your health." Harris smiled bitterly when he heard Luo Guang's words. "I don't want to, but the Rice Gang has made some small moves recently. I talked with other survivor groups for a long time last night and have to make preparations." In the room where Harris was handling affairs, there was a large map of Harlan City on the dining table, with a lot of new things drawn on it. Luo Guang glanced at it and directly wrote down all the information on it, such as the location of other survivors. "Jill should like this big gift package. If it's on the way, how about I lead some zombies to Rice to help them cause some trouble?" Luo Guang asked with good intentions. But Harris shook his head and refused, saying, "No, it's more important for you to find your own family." He mistakenly thought that the other party was asking for this in order to repay the tower forces for letting him stay overnight. In addition to this, he was also worried about Luo Guang's safety. He might not be able to beat zombies, and it would not be a good thing if the Rice Gang was forced into a corner. Because the core codders of the Rice Gang all had guns, and the long-range weapons in the hands of ordinary survivors were only a few handmade bows and crossbows. This thing is okay for sneak attacks, but it will definitely be at a disadvantage when used against the short guns and long cannons of the Rice Gang. This is why the Rice Gang and other survivors finally maintained a delicate balance, instead of taking advantage of the time when everyone's strength was gathered together to solve the Rice Gang, this bastard gang, in one fell swoop. Since the other party refused, Luo Guang would naturally not pester for help. At this time, Amir walked into the room with 2 cups of coffee in each hand. Seeing Luo Guang, he said apologetically, "Sorry, I didn't know you got up and didn't prepare your coffee." The other party was just being polite. Luo Guang politely replied, "No, I'm ready to go too." "Okay." Amir handed one of the cups of coffee to Harris and said, "Amuro, wait for me." After that, he put down his coffee, took out a folded paper from his trouser pocket and handed it to Luo Guang. "This is a route to the old city through the sewer. Also, we don't know the exact location of the night demon's lair, so you should be careful." Although Amir said one route, he wrote several routes on the paper. As for the source of the route, it came from the full-page sewer map in his hand. "Thank you." Luo Guang thanked him. Sometimes it is easy to get lost in the environment of the sewer. He is not afraid of getting lost, but he doesn't want to waste time in such a stinky place. Amir did not cheat Luo Guang. This is indeed a route map to the old city. The purpose of doing this is not only that he is indeed a good person who wants to help Luo Guang, but also to avoid Luo Guang and clan from bumping into each other. Because after Wang Qianglin takes clan to get the key, she will go to the secret research institute in the old city sooner or later. He is worried that after Amuro, Luo Guang, meets him, Wang Qianglin will directly kill him. The two chatted for a few more words, and Luo Guang left the twin apartments and walked towards the old city. The area around the apartment is still relatively safe. The tower force was established not long ago. Apart from the trivial matter of the Rice Gang, they just cleaned up and looted the surrounding areas. Staying alive is the most important thing, and they don't care whether it is good or not to take other people's things. The Turkish government has not legislated on biochemical crisis events, especially the restrictions on emergency avoidance of survivors during biochemical crisis time and the amnesty of certain behaviors. It's not that the regulations on emergency avoidance cannot be used, but not all countries apply this regulation. Later, Luo Guang chose to parkour on the rooftop. Although for the biters on the ground, Luo Guang running on the rooftop is as far away as the sun, it is too conspicuous for the plague demon and the people of the Rice Gang. Luo Guang, who had just arrived, was seen doing this rooftop parkour by a group of younger brothers from the Rice gang. They thought that Luo Guang was provoking them, so they chased him with all kinds of weapons. They were drugged and only noticed Luo Guang, but they didn't see the plague demon chasing them downstairs, so the two sides collided directly. The people from the Rice gang were so angry that they cursed, but Luo Guang was grateful to these chivalrous men who showed up halfway. However, after this incident, he changed his mind and thought it would be better to move forward steadily, and not always have so many little brothers behind him, which would easily attract other people's attention. He first conveyed the location of the survivors in the civilian area to Sams through the Donald family. Because the only mobile phone Luo Guang could use now was the one from the X organization. The people in the organization would not be so bored that they would always monitor their subordinates' communications, otherwise Simmons would definitely not let Luo Guang use the mobile phone of his organization when he contacted Luo Guang before. He went to the Donald family to convey the information just to be on the defensive. Luo Guang came to the starting point drawn on Amir's map. It was a small bungalow with a door on the floor. According to what Amir wrote on the paper, the sewer maintenance room was below here. Luo Guang picked up the crowbar next to the maintenance table and walked out the door. This is a work-shaped sewer with an arched ceiling, cement passages on both sides, and a waterway in the middle, separated by iron fences to prevent people from falling in. It was pitch black below, and there was not even a light. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. Maintenance workers usually wear headlamps to work directly, and it is a waste to install electric lights in a place like the sewer where no one goes. Luo Guang has memorized the map given by Amir, so he doesn't need to take it out to look at it, and he moves forward accurately along the route. There are many rats in the sewer. Luo Guang randomly grabbed one with a glove made of hardened armor to confirm whether the rat is infected. The Harlan virus is a mutant version of the rabies virus, and the possibility of rats carrying the rabies virus in nature is very low. Because the rabies virus is generally only transmitted between animals through biting, and small animals like rats basically cannot survive after being bitten. Luo Guang didn't have any testing methods, and he wouldn't drink rat blood himself, so he lifted the iron net above the waterway, grabbed the back half of the rat, and soaked the rat's head in water. Then he took it out to check, and there was no sign of rabies such as pharyngeal muscle spasm and difficulty breathing. He threw the rat into the water and it swam away directly. The reason why Luo Guang wanted to confirm whether the rat had any problems was to prevent the situation in Raccoon City from happening again. When the T-virus spread that year, rats were a great help. Under normal circumstances, the range of rats' movements is not wide, but who knows whether rats infected with the Harlan virus will be transported out through logistics. This is likely to expand the scope of infection of the biochemical crisis. Along the way, he changed rats in several places for spot checks, and none of them showed signs of water phobia, which made Luo Guang feel a little relieved. He didn't encounter any infected people along the way, let alone the night demon's lair. Now thinking back, it would be strange if there were so many zombies wandering in the sewer like in the game. But his luck was not very good. The road he randomly chose just passed the night demon's lair. Without even having to step into the night devil's lair, the changes in the surrounding environment have already hinted that Luo Guang is heading to the night devil's lair. The ground is full of skulls and bones, and there are small hills of corpses on both sides. The fresh meat on his body had long been eaten by the night devil, and the rotten skin and flesh left behind, coupled with the watering of blood, have turned into mud and spread shallowly on the ground. However, contrary to the decorative facade, after carefully stepping through this area, there are not so many disgusting things inside. It seems that it is not a facade used to intimidate the enemy, but a garbage dumping area where the night devils deal with post-meal garbage. Luo Guang passed this area, turned into another road, and fought with the patrolling infected in the night devil's lair. At almost the same time, in the garbage dumping area he just passed, Two night walkers pushed away the rotten corpse on the top of the corpse pile on both sides, climbed out, and then chased in the direction of Luo Guang. These are the guards and ambushes arranged by the Night Devil here. Although the Night Demon was infected with the Harlan virus and his body changed dramatically, as if he had become another species, his intelligence did not degenerate due to the infection, and he was able to plan his own nest and develop his own nest to a limited extent. Luo Guang avoided the attack of the Night Walker, and then flipped the top of the enemy's head with a crowbar. In just one round of attack and defense, the two ambushers had already caught up with Luo Guang. Unfortunately, he dealt with the enemy too quickly and failed to form a pincer attack. Looking back at the blood dripping from the two ambushers, Luo Guang frowned, took out two small pieces of cement from his pocket, and threw them directly at the enemy's head. In addition to stones, Luo Guang has also been very good at throwing knives and axes after training. This throwing ability can make up for the trouble caused by Luo Guang's lack of guns. The cement blocks pierced the heads of the two night walkers like bullets, and the enemies fell to the ground and died. Before Luo Guang could catch his breath, other night walkers rushed out from the other side of the passage, followed by a blood mist that appeared with the night walkers, blurring the situation behind the enemy. He didn't see the night demon in his sight, but he still had to be careful. He started with two cement blocks, and then Luo Guang took the crowbar to meet him. These night walkers are different from ordinary T-virus zombies. They can't fly over the eaves and walls, but they can still run a few steps on the wall. The night walker, who looked very fierce, opened his mouth and pounced on Luo Guang, but he was hit back with a crowbar. Luo Guang did not retract his right hand to attack, but hit another night walker who followed closely behind him with a backhand, knocking the night walker behind him to the ground. The night walker on the left raised his fist and hit the enemy in front of him. Luo Guang took a step back to distance himself, and at the same time pulled out the cross screwdriver from his waist with his left hand and stabbed it directly into the night walker's eye socket. Night walkers attacked Luo Guang one after another, and he eliminated them one by one. He thought it would continue like this until all the enemies were eliminated. Suddenly, a pool of green liquid flew out from the blood mist, and the target was Luo Guang. Luo Guang accelerated to avoid the sudden attack, and then kicked the eighth night walker. He didn't need to look back, he heard the sizzling sound of the iron fence behind him and knew that the green liquid was corrosive. Is this spitting trick from the night demon? Or is it a new variant infected person, Luo Guang thought to himself, and his hands did not stop moving. The subsequent green saliva attacks failed to take down Luo Guang, making the enemy angry and embarrassed. A deep roar appeared, and the night demon finally appeared in front of him. There was no difference from the image described in the report and Amir, but the real thing looked more terrifying and disgusting. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. The night demon directly pounced on Luo Guang from a distance of several meters away, but Luo Guang rolled over to avoid it. Use whatever abilities you have, Luo Guang mocked the night demon. The night demon did not pounce on Luo Guang with one blow, and directly curled up and rolled on the ground twice to relieve the force. The rolling action was very standard. Then the enemy pierced the hole in the iron fence with both claws and stopped moving. Luo Guang kicked the head of the night walker who had been shot dead on the ground with a football kick, directly kicking the head of the night walker away from the body and flying towards the night demon. The night demon slapped off the severed head with one palm, and then continued to attack Luo Guang. Just as Luo Guang focused his attention on the night demon, 3 mouthfuls of green liquid spurted out of the blood mist at the same time and flew towards Luo Guang, trying to block Luo Guang's evasion route. But the enemy's conspiracy was going to fail. Luo Guang's speed was not comparable to those of ordinary people. That green liquid was so disgusting that he didn't want to touch it at all. The enemy in the eyes of the night demon disappeared in the blink of an eye, and then it saw that a hole appeared in the middle of the blood mist at some point. That was the air driven by Luo Guang when he rushed into the blood mist, which directly dispersed the blood mist in the middle. There was not much blood mist in the Night Walker's body, and it seemed that it would only appear in combat. After rushing through the blood mist, Luo Guang found that the guy hiding and spitting was not a new mutant infected person, but those night demons. This was something that was not mentioned in the F.B.CS combat report. There were a total of 4 night demons in this night demon nest, 3 in front and 1 behind. These night demons obviously had never seen someone like Luo Guang, and did not attack him immediately. They looked at Luo Guang vigilantly and communicated silently. In order to let Jill know the fighting style of the night demons, Luo Guang did not attack now. However, he changed his posture and stood sideways to ensure that the night demons on both sides were basically in sight. He suddenly saw that the night demon on the right side suddenly took a step back, stepped hard on the iron fence with his hind legs, and made a sound, attracting Luo Guang's attention. And at the moment when Luo Guang was distracted, the 3 night demons charged at Luo Guang, and the bait who took a step back also charged when Luo Guang turned around to check the situation on the opposite side. Luo Guang threw the tip of the crowbar at the bait with his right hand, and solved the lone night demon directly with lightning speed. For ordinary people, the fast running speed was nothing big in his eyes. The 3 night demons attacked from the left, right, and top respectively. Luo Guang took a step back to avoid the tiger-like attack from the night demon above. The night demons on the left and right followed closely behind him, chasing him up, swinging their arms high to throw a powerful backswing punch. But Luo Guang was faster than them. The night demons had intelligence, but that didn't mean they had learned how to fight in close combat. The swing punches of the night demons left them wide open, giving Luo Guang an opportunity. He threw out his fists, faster than the 2 night demons on the left and right, and smashed the heads of the 2 night demons directly. Even though he saw his companions being easily dealt with by the enemy, the night demon that missed the attack had no time to change its route to attack again, and was hit by Luo Guang's kick on the chin. Another night demon in the world lost its head. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 312. Crane and Wan Qianglin left the safe area set up by the tower forces in the apartment and walked up the stairs. The 2 of them were holding 2 water pipes kindly sponsored by the tower force. These were the most weapons in the tower force's inventory today. In addition, there is a dagger at their waist, which is all the weapons of the 2. Although there is no elevator, they can also climb directly to the 13th floor through the stairs without clearing enemies floor by floor. The stairwell is separated from the apartment area. The corridor is in the shape of a back, with a staircase leading up and down in the middle. Apartments are located on 3 sides, and the remaining side is a public area, which is used by residents as a place for daily social interaction. The enemies in the staircase had been cleared away by the tower forces, so they reached the door of the 13th floor with some effort and prepared to enter the public area. Wan Qianglin checked the situation in the public area through the small window on the door and found several zombies wandering around. Judging from the condition of their skin, these zombies were not biters, but plague demons. The enemies may all be epidemic demons, which would be troublesome. Wan Qianglin looked at Crane with a worried look. She was worried that her match would suffer something serious here. Although he has successfully obtained Crane's essence sample, if he is killed here without stimulating his full potential, his evaluation and level in the organization will drop. Crane didn't know this. He just felt that his girlfriend cared too much about him and loved him too much. He even thought that his girlfriend was overprotecting him, so he had always wanted to do something in his career to reassure his girlfriend or make her happy. Let's try to sneak in first, and then sneak attack those plague demons, right? Crane suggested. Those infected with the Harlan virus can be eliminated with one move, such as twisting their necks. Although they are more resistant to beatings, these enemies do not have as strong recovery capabilities as those infected with the T virus. After Wan Qianglin thought about it, she nodded and agreed to his plan. The more enemies she could kill before being discovered, the less pressure she would feel when she was discovered. But she still warned carefully, "Be careful. If the enemy finds out, I may not be able to save you in time." She was not qualified to inject enhancers, and her combat effectiveness was much lower than that of agents of the same level. The battle in the sewers left her frightened, so she was even more cautious in the face of this operation. First, he pulled out the water pipe that was blocking the door, and then slowly unlocked the door. After the two looked at each other to confirm that they were ready, Wang Qianglin gently opened the door and walked in while squatting. Crane followed closely behind, and the two of them started to clean up the zombies, one on the left and the other on the right. The method is very simple. The first is to keep the action quiet, the second is to avoid the enemy's sight, and the third is to kill with one blow. But in fact it is very difficult, which is why some assassins suddenly take out a two-handed axe and change their profession into a berserker when they are halfway through sneaking. The floor of the training camp stealth practice room was spotless compared to this public area. After killing a plague demon, Crane walked towards another enemy. As a result, he didn't pay attention to the garbage under his feet and made a sound. Without stopping, he rushed towards the target position quickly. He wants to break the enemy's neck before he reacts and roars. This idea was correct, but in desperation, he failed to keep quiet and kicked the can, ringing the dinner bell for the infected. Wang Qianglin, who also finished dealing with the plague demon, sighed helplessly and at the same time pulled out the water pipe plugged into the side of her backpack. She knocked aside the approaching plague demon with a stick, and then kicked down the plague demon that was following closely behind, creating space and time for her next attack. The next step was very simple. She immediately stepped forward and stepped on the fallen demon, and then used the weapon in her hand to kill the enemy. Turning to look at Crane, he saw that the other party was tripped to the ground by the corpse of the first plague demon that was eliminated. She was about to go over to rescue Crane when she saw him using a rabbit kick eagle move to kick the approaching plague demon to the back of his head. He hit the wall and landed headfirst on the ground, breaking his neck. While observing the enemy's situation, Wang Qianglin ran over and pulled the enemy up, asking with concern, "Are you okay?" Crane shook his head and said, "It's okay. There are only a few enemies in the public areas and corridors, but there are obviously many enemies inside the apartment, because they are constantly knocking on the door due to the movement outside. Among the enemies we just eliminated, there is no Rahim," Crane said after confirming safety. Amir told the clan and the two of Rahim's photos and clothes. None of the enemies they had just eliminated had the same clothes, so there was no need to check the corpses one by one. Wang Qianglin nodded and replied, "Me too. Let's ignore that guy's affairs for now and let's find the key." Crane nodded. Anyway, if Rahim wasn't here, he would be trapped next door to Amir's house. Finding the key was quick. Amir's words were simple and clear, and no zombies broke into his room, so Crane and the others easily found the key in the socket behind the TV. "Okay, let's go find Rahim next," Crane said after giving the key to Wang Qianglin for safekeeping. But Wang Qianglin had a different opinion and said, "We have a mission here, not to play house with the forces here. Anyway, we have agreed to them, and I think Amir seems to care about this matter. If we don't help, what will happen if he doesn't help us carry out the mission?" Crane argued and continued, "Besides, we are all here, so it won't hurt to do this on the way." This was the first time that Crane raised an opinion that was contrary to hers, which made Wang Qianglin raise her eyebrows. Originally, she wanted to refute the other party, but when she thought about her organization as a good organization when she introduced it, she withdrew her idea and said, "Okay, but we will only search on this floor. If we can't find the other party, we will go back." What Crane said was right. Anyway, since we are here, it is also a matter of convenience. There is no need to make trouble. Hearing his girlfriend's agreement, Crane nodded with a smile. The two continued to set off and came to room 1304 next door. The door was closed. Since the other living zombies were trapped in other apartments, they were not polite. Kran shouted Rahim's name directly outside the door. "Rahim, are you home? Amir sent us to find you." In response to Kran, Rahim cried for help, "Help! I'm stuck in the toilet by those zombies and can't get out." Rahim had been sitting on the toilet before, with his legs stretched out against the door, so that the zombies couldn't break in. Because Rahim had deceived the guard to come here, and didn't tell anyone about his plan, and his intercom accidentally fell on the floor outside the toilet during his escape, so he could only pray that the guard would be more alert and find out in time that he had lost contact and hadn't come back, and then send someone to find him. The door of his house was accidentally closed by the zombies and was not locked. After hitting the toilet door many times, the zombies slowly stopped knocking on the door, perhaps because they had not been able to break through the door, and wandered around the room instead. Rahim was familiar with the habits of these zombies, so he didn't rush out just because the knocking on the door stopped outside, but put down his stiff legs and rubbed his legs to relax his muscles. Not long after, Kran and his men arrived, and the shouting made him stand up and respond immediately. Worried about the safety of the rescuers, he added, "There are many zombies in the room, be careful." As if to verify Rahim's words, a fierce knocking sound was heard, knocking on the door and the toilet door at the same time. Now he has to block the door again. The door was not locked. Kran pushed the door in, and Wan Kyunglan followed closely, kicking over Kran's body on the side and kicking the zombie that pounced on him. After the zombie was kicked down, it also brought down several zombies behind this guy. Kran took this opportunity to step forward and hit the enemy's head with a water pipe. Wan Kyunglan did not attack because the entrance corridor was a bit narrow. Two people can walk side by side, but their hands will not be able to be used and they cannot attack with all their strength. She might as well be responsible for protecting and observing Kran from behind. Wan Kyunglan can clearly feel that Kran's combat effectiveness has become stronger. When being chased in the sewer, she also found that Kran's shooting skills became more and more accurate under high pressure, and his improvement speed was much faster than when he was in the training camp. It seems that the organization is indeed correct. The other party is indeed very potential and meets the requirements of the organization. She and Crane have known each other for more than a year. She chose Kyle Crane from the people recommended by the organization. Then, under the arrangement of the organization, she and Crane had an encounter and developed a relationship between a man and a woman. Finally, she handed over Crane's essence to the organization, and then Crane successfully joined the organization. These things allowed her to successfully upgrade from a C-level agent to a B-level, a 3-level promotion. But this promotion does not mean that her strength has reached the B-level, so she is not eligible to apply for the enhancer, so she chose to take on this B-level task to prove herself. Crane solved the zombies in the house in a few seconds. He had been tripped before, and now he was staring at the ground with his peripheral vision during the battle to confirm the situation of the foothold. "Rahim, the zombies outside have been solved." Crane knocked on the toilet door and said. "Who are you?" Because of his nervousness and excitement, Rahim did not realize that the other party's voice was not familiar to him. At this time, separated by a door, he finally found something wrong. "We are sent by Amir to rescue you," Kellen continued, "the couple who came yesterday." After he finished speaking, Wan Kyunglan also responded in time, indicating that the other party of the couple was also there. Rahim carefully opened the bathroom door, revealing a gap, and opened the door after taking a look at the two people outside the door. He had seen these two people in the corridor, but had not communicated. "Thank you, wait for me, I'm looking for something here." Rahim did not leave anxiously because of this encounter. He still remembered the purpose of his adventure here. Wan Kyunglan nodded, and understood what the other party was going to do next, so she and Kellen waited at the door and waited for Rahim to finish his work. They did not close the door of the apartment because they were worried that zombies would knock open the doors of other apartments after closing the door, and then squat behind the door, so they were afraid of encountering unexpected situations when they opened the door by guarding at the door first. Rahim retrieved his walkie-talkie and first informed Harris and Amir that he was safe, and also to test the waters, such as whether his sister knew about this. As soon as Amir received Rahim's call, the walkie-talkie was snatched away by Jed next to him. Although her brother reported that he was safe, he was still on the 13th floor, so she did not yell at Rahim, but suppressed her anger and said, "I'll wait for you to come back." After that, she threw the intercom back to Amir. Amir smiled bitterly. When he was chasing Jed, Rahim also helped him, and the two had a good relationship. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. But this time Rahim went too far, so he did not help him hide the matter, but just kept holding Jed, who wanted to run to the 13th floor immediately. Amir was worried that Jed would take risks for Rahim's safety, which was why he didn't want Jed to go to save people. Rahim knew that he would be scolded again when he returned, and the excitement of surviving the disaster disappeared in an instant. After packing the things he needed in 2 plastic bags, the 3 of them prepared to go back. As the battle ended, the zombies knocking on the door slowly stopped moving, so the 3 of clan didn't have to fight again and returned to the 5th floor safely. As soon as he entered the public area on the 5th floor, Rahim was dragged away by Jade. His sister Jade was a taekwondo champion known as Scorpion, so Rahim immediately turned his head and looked at Amir pitifully. However, Amir could only say that he could not help, and he did not dare to face Jade's anger now. After watching Rahim being dragged away, he took Kellen and Wan Kyanglin to the room they stayed in last night. His own room has now been taken by Jade. Amir asked as usual, "Did you find the key?" "Of course I found it." Wan Kyanglin handed the key to Amir. Amir opened the button under the key, revealing a plug, and then inserted the key into the interface of the mobile phone. He controlled the mobile phone to start the program. After entering the password, the program began to decrypt the key at the first level, and also asked, "Next, you will go to the old city, right?" Wan Kyanglin nodded. The origin of this crisis is the location of the Institute. Their goal this time is to go into the Institute to investigate the cause of the virus leak. It is worth mentioning that the subsequent spread of the Harlan virus was not done by their organization. Now the old city has been completely blocked, you can only go through the sewers. Amir said it directly. The current situation is still going according to his plan. Amir has the key and the first level password to enter the Institute, but he does not know the specific location of the Institute. On the contrary, Wan Kyanglin knows the location of the Institute and the second level password, but does not have the first level password and key. This is the confidentiality procedure of their organization. So after Wan Kyanglin took the key, she also inserted the key into her mobile phone, and then controlled the mobile phone to unlock the second level password. "Do you know the route?" "We need a route map," Kellen took the initiative to ask while his girlfriend was busy entering the password. Because of the environment of the sewer, those night demons basically set up nests there, and I don't know the location of those nests. "Do you mean we can only gamble on luck?" Seeing that the other party did not suspect, Amir smiled and said, "No, I know someone. They control a sewer route that safely travels between the old city and the new city. The name of their organization is Savior. Evolution begins with Resident Evil." Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 313. Amir stood by the window of the apartment, watching Kellen and Wan Kyanglin leave below, then took out a radio and contacted a man named Jack. That man was the intermediary of the Savior organization. This Savior organization sounds like an organization that saves the world, but in fact it is just a smuggling organization. This name is just because ordinary people or police will think that it is just a name given by some middle school students. Unless there is solid evidence, it will definitely not be linked to smuggling. But this is more of a self-deception. As long as the police have clues or evidence of smuggling, It doesn't matter what name the criminal group uses. In the entire criminal chain, this organization is only responsible for the smuggling part, usually handing over illegal goods in the suburbs or freight centers, and then sending them to other gangs in various districts of Harlan City. In order to avoid the police, they opened their own smuggling routes in the sewers of various areas of Harlan City. Before the opening ceremony of the sports meeting, the Z government of Harlan City blocked the entire old city and let the people inside fend for themselves. But people can save themselves. Even if they can't stop the construction team from blocking the entire old city, they still found a way to leave the old city, or a way to find those who want to run away. The Savior organization took the initiative to spread the word that they have a way to rescue people from the old city. Because of the distrust of the Z government, this news has been spreading among civilians, and no one reported it. This organization did not do this to save people. Those civilians who want to leave the old city, which is about to become purgatory, have to pay. Money can make the devil work. People without money can only wait to die in the old city, while the rich let these ghosts take them out and leave Harlan City quickly before the entire city is blocked. The Savior organization worked at full capacity during those days. In order to make money, they didn't care about secrecy. At that time, all the police, fire, and other departments were sent to the new city to help with the sports meeting. No one cared about how the people in the old city were doing now. In the morning, there were only a dozen people walking together, but in the afternoon, there were dozens of people, and in the evening, hundreds of people gathered together to escape the city through the sewers. The subordinates of this organization took money to do the work throughout the process, and did not confirm the infected people, which led to them not discovering that someone had been bitten by the Harlan virus infected people and mixed in the team. In fact, the leader of the Savior organization did instruct his subordinates, but there were too many people to escape, so the subordinates did not strictly enforce it to save trouble. In this way, just like those zombie movies, this group of people was wiped out. The zombies that Luo Guang encountered in the sewers were basically mutated by these people. Because of this incident, the Savior organization suffered a heavy blow, and many subordinates were affected when leading civilians to the sewers, and then lost their lives. After learning about the experience of his subordinates, the leader expressed deep regret, but more anger. Because the subordinates did not follow their instructions, and those roads could no longer be walked after accidents, which would make their efficiency in making money much lower. If the leader of the team managed to come back alive, he would have shot him dead. Since then, the Savior organization has only one smuggling channel left. However, the routes that Amir gave Luo Guang were not the channels of the Savior organization, but those of his own organization, and were not in the sewer layout map of the Municipal Bureau. Jack of the Savior organization was drinking in a bar called Nico in the civilian area with his favorite M16 assault rifle, and received Amir's call. "Jack, are you still alive?" "Mike, your way of greeting is really special." "What's the matter?" Jack asked after taking a sip of wine. Mike is Amir's pseudonym, used to connect with Jack. "I have a business, help me send 2 people away." "How to send?" Jack asked, leaning against the sofa. Amir replied, "Just send it normally, and you can go to the old place to get the money after 3 o'clock this afternoon. There is a mailbox in the old place, and he usually puts the money there." "In that case, there's no need for you to contact me." Jack stood up, glanced at his other companions, and then walked to the toilet, whispering, "Is it a private matter?" Amir had a video of Jack betraying his leader, killing the goods and taking away the valuables from the other party. The leader of the Savior organization cares a lot about the reputation of the organization, otherwise how could the black and white world allow this organization to monopolize the smuggling business in Harlan City, so Amir has Jack's handle. But Jack is a greedy person. Although Amir has his handle, he will also pay him for doing things for him, so he is not so concerned about getting his handle back, and plans to make enough money before discussing the issue. That's right. So you have to do this for me, don't make any mistakes. Otherwise, it's not just you who will die, but also your family. After Amir made a harsh remark, he switched the radio frequency and said, "The goods are on the road. Received, the next thing is none of your business, you can evacuate at any time." The voice of the person who spoke was processed, and it was impossible to distinguish between men and women. Got it. Amir switched the intercom channel to the tower's exclusive channel, then looked around the room, confirmed that Clan and the other man had not left anything here that shouldn't have been left, and then walked out. The next thing will be done by himself. I hope Jed can forgive himself. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Neither Kellen nor Wan Kyunglan, who left the tower forces, found anything wrong with Amir. In the many years of history of her organization, there has never been a single betrayer, because the people who can come out to perform tasks are the most loyal people in the organization. Not to mention that Amir is a male, and there are very few men among the official members of his organization who can go out into the field. The two had some twists and turns, but in the end they arrived at a bar on Central Avenue safely. There were many zombie corpses on the ground around the bar. The two of them could tell that the corpses had been killed by gunfire, and judging from the bullet holes, it seemed that they had the firepower of an assault rifle. No one was inside the bar to monitor the situation outside, and there were no snipers guarding the rooftop. However, the two were still very cautious. Although they were very close to the bar, they still went around and used the car as a cover to approach the bar. They arrived in front of the bar safely without any accidents. They were like clowns fighting against the air. Crane knocked on the door, waited a second, and then knocked again. After knocking 3 times in a row, the bar door was opened, and Jack's slightly drunk face appeared at the door. "For what?" "Someone recommended us to come here, saying that we have a way." "Name of recommender?" Mike Wan Kyunglan told Amir the code word given to her. She also asked Amir about all the details and the entire process of going to the old city, because she was worried that those gangs were unethical. Jack nodded. It seemed that this was the goods that Mike asked him to deliver. He didn't waste any time. He took out a piece of paper from his pocket, handed it to Wan Kyunglan, and touched it in her tender hands. Wan Kyunglan didn't seem to care, but Kellen felt that both he and his girlfriend were offended by each other. "Take a look and see if there's anything wrong with it," Wan Kyunglan interrupted Crane, who was about to explode, and handed him the paper. Then she turned to Jack and said, "By the way, in addition to transportation services, do you provide other services? For example, arms?" "Sorry, we don't sell these here. You have to find someone who specializes in selling weapons. The Savior organization can only do smuggling, while selling arms and unique products are the cakes of other gangs." After Jack glanced at Wan Kyunglan up and down, he said maliciously, "But if you can help me clean the gun, I don't mind lending you my weapon." "Oh, my brothers probably won't mind using it again. Give it to that pretty boy of yours." As he spoke, he put his right hand in front of his hip and moved it up and down. "You guy," Crane couldn't help it anymore and wanted to teach him a lesson. But Wan Kyunglan stopped Crane and said, "Is the map okay?" "Me." Crane was suppressed by Wan Kyunglan and couldn't swing his fist at all. In the end, he seemed to be deflated and replied, "It's no different from what Mike said, no problem." "That's good. Kyle, you can go further." Hearing Wan Kyunglan's pleading words, Jack whistled. He was just making a dirty joke and had no intention of doing those things. He couldn't afford to offend Amir. The other party's threat to his family was not a bluff, but if the other party offered it to his door, would he still be a man if he didn't accept it? But Kellen, who was face to face with Wan Kyunglan, didn't think so, because he saw the coldness on his girlfriend's face. It wasn't that his strength was completely suppressed by the other party, but the murderous aura that made him dare not go against his girlfriend's will. Only then did he realize that his girlfriend had actually been angry all along and was only temporarily enduring it for the sake of the mission. When Wang Qianglin turned to look at Jack, all Jack saw was Wang Qianglin, who seemed very determined. Jack's eyes widened as he relaxed his vigilance. Wang Qianglin, who was close to him, stabbed him in the kidney with a dagger. The assault rifle in his hand had already passed into the opponent's hand. After Wang Qianglin quickly checked whether the gun was safe and loaded, she kicked Jack to the ground, who was clutching his stomach. "I'll leave this person to you." With these words, she walked in with an assault rifle and slaughtered all the people in the bar. Without even shedding a drop of sweat, Wang Qianglin returned to Kellen and said, "How are you? Are you feeling comfortable?" She deliberately did not stab Jack to death just so that Crane could vent his anger. The blood dripping from his hands fell on the floor, and Crane said, "I feel like I am not like me just now. Like an out-of-control beast, like some kind of zombie you mentioned to me before." Although the Portland incident was well blocked, Wang Qianglin's organization still received some rumors, but they looked down upon this virus. "It's normal for you to be afraid. This is a side effect of the realization of the potential in your body. Or to put it in layman's terms, the rapid improvement in combat power makes you arrogant." Crane actually knew what happened to him. After he came here, many of the problems he had been reprimanded by the training camp instructors disappeared without realizing it. His marksmanship, fighting ability, etc. have all been greatly improved. Like a sponge, the knowledge he once learned in the training camp but failed to use has finally been integrated into his body. This sudden physical strengthening also caused some changes in his spirit, so he, who had always obeyed Wang Qianglin, refuted his girlfriend's words for the first time on the 13th floor of the apartment. This is the confidence that strength brings to people, or arrogance. That's why there is a saying that learning martial arts must first cultivate virtue, and there are also sayings such as the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. This chapter is not yet finished. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Cran looked at his hands and fell into deep thought. Wang Qianglin walked over, not caring about the blood on the other's hands, shook them, and said gently, "You did nothing wrong, that kind of scum deserves to die, you just did what a man should do. It is also her job to guide her boyfriend not to lose himself in power." Crane shook his head and said, "I'm not thinking about that scumbag, but I feel that I was immersed in violence just now, which is not a good phenomenon. Just keep your original heart." Wang Qianglin comforted, "I know you are a good person. At that time, I was being hunted down, and you, who had not been trained, helped me without hesitation, didn't you?" The so-called hunt was the script arranged by her organization. Crane nodded, wiped his hands with the curtain, and said, "Let's go." The two continued on the road with the note, and soon found the collapsed tunnel. Pushing open the iron door and walking in, they met the people of the Savior organization. "How did you find this place?" The man who opened the door held a gun in his hand and looked at the two people holding assault rifles vigilantly. Asked. "This is our ticket." Crane took out the paper ticket that Jack gave him. This was not only a map for them to see, but also a ticket for the Savior organization to deliver the goods. After the other party took it and took a look, he handed the ticket back, waved his head, and motioned for the two to follow. "Boss, these two people are going to the old city. They were recommended by an old acquaintance. The payment will be collected at the same place and time tomorrow." The guard brought the people to the leader and gave him a look, then left to guard the door. The acquaintance's recommendation and the payment were written on the ticket in code. The leader saw the two fully armed people and noticed the M16 assault rifles in their hands, and asked, "Where did you get these weapons? Isn't this something you should ask? Concession and weakness in this place will only make others push forward," so Cran did not intend to answer the other party's questions. "That's right, this is indeed not what I care about. It would be even more strange if you went to the old city without some weapons. Take them to the passage." The leader waved his right hand, and the person standing on the right side behind him stood up and led the two people to the passage. After watching the two people leave his sight, he took out the intercom and began to call Jack, the person in charge of Nicobar. However, the other party did not give him any response, which gave him a very bad premonition. The weapons in Jack's hands were all M16 assault rifles, and the two men were holding the same weapon. Although there was no evidence, his cautious character made him not let go of any doubts. Although the other party did not tell him the answer, there was no evasion in his eyes, so the leader of the Savior organization would not arrest two people just because of suspicion, which was not in line with his business principles. You, take two people to the bar and lie down, be careful. Finally, for the sake of safety, he decided to send someone to confirm the situation, thinking about the next step. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Miao. Chapter 314. Under the guidance of the Savior organization, Kellen and Wan Qianglin came to a sewer passage separated by an iron fence. In addition to the entrance, there are a lot of metal or wooden garbage behind the fences on both sides, and even an M2HB heavy machine gun is set up for defense. These are all facilities prepared in advance to prevent zombies. Although this road has not experienced the situation where the goods mutated into monsters and fell, the sewers are connected in all directions, and no one knows whether the zombies will run here. Just follow the map, don't go the wrong way, otherwise it will be troublesome, and we won't come to save you. The person who led the way said so. What if there is a problem with the road? Since you don't accompany us, it means that you don't know whether the situation has changed now, right? Wan Qianglin asked. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. The guide pondered for a while and told the other party the contact channel of his intercom. That's it, if you have any problems, come to me. After that, he used the key on his body to open the iron gate and let the two people in. Kran and Wan Qianglin did not respond, just nodded, then walked in, and soon disappeared around a corner. The guide locked the door and was thinking about leaving and reporting back when the team leader in charge of guarding suddenly received a call from the leader, have the people brought by Cuddy set off. The team leader glanced at the guide Cuddy, and confirmed the situation on the other side of the passage, and said, the two people just left. Is that so? Forget it. The leader originally planned to lie that there was a problem with the passage and was solving it, so that the people there would drag Kran and the others first, and make a decision after confirming the situation at Nicobar. This time, his men acted so quickly, there was nothing he could do. Boss, the other party just asked me for the contact information. Although the leader said forget it, Cuddy heard that his leader was in a bad mood, and immediately took the captain's walkie-talkie and said. Then Cuddy told the leader about the conversation between the two sides just now. Well done, Cuddy. If the other party contacts you, you ask them to wait there. I will contact you later using Vincent's walkie-talkie, the leader replied happily. Vincent is the name of the captain. Got it. Cuddy successfully gained the leader's favor, and his face was happy, which made Vincent look contemptuous. Wan Qianglin walked behind, holding a map to confirm the route, while Clan walked in front with a gun to lead the way. The service of the Savior organization is very good. Not only does it provide simple maps, but also in some places with more forks in the road, conspicuous white arrows are painted on the wall to tell you which way to go. Lin, there are enemies ahead. They held flashlights and saw a figure wandering aimlessly in the distance. When Kellen called Wan Qianglin's name, he usually only read the last word, which was more in line with the English name and more fluent. Didn't Amir say that this route was safe? Wan Qianglin frowned, expressing her dissatisfaction with Amir. Kellen replied, Amir is only in contact with the Savior organization, and he doesn't know the specific situation. And judging from the contact with those people, Amir didn't control them either. Wang Qianglin just felt that it was troublesome to fight again. This B-level mission originally only required her and Kellen to go to the research institute, get the research materials and virus samples, and then they and the people from the research institute directly evacuated Harlan City through secret channels. The key is also an important prop for using secret channels. But since they entered Harlan City, many things have not been as she wished, and this vague situation that is beyond her control makes her feel uncomfortable. But she was unhappy, but she did not hesitate to do what she had to do. She walked to the side of Kran, raised her M16 assault rifle and began to clear the plague demons in front of her. Kran saw that she was a step slower, so she did not shoot, but put the flashlight on the ground in front of her to illuminate the area in front. Reload, Wang Qianglin shouted, and Kran immediately took up the gap in firepower, quickly moved the gun to aim, and accurately eliminated each plague demon. 30 rounds of bullets allowed Kran to suppress the demons that rushed over, and he shot them in the head one by one. Wang Qianglin changed the magazine and looked at Kran, who was focused. The opponent was very handsome now. Reload. No matter how accurate it is, there will be times when the bullets are empty. Kran first looked behind him to confirm safety, then turned back and stared at the running enemy. His left hand reached for the assault rifle magazine on his waist, and without looking at the weapon in his hand, he successfully replaced the new magazine. The result of Wang Qianglin's reshooting was a bit unsatisfactory, much lower than Kran's hit rate. This was because after seeing Kran's shooting, she had a fighting spirit in her heart. She originally aimed at the enemy's torso, but now she shifted her target to the enemy's head. Although the enemy was running towards them, they would not run in a straight line foolishly. Sometimes they would slide to the left or right to dodge. This action did not have any signs. Even if they pointed their guns at these plague demons, the plague demons might not dodge, but Kran did not know why he could always accurately find the opportunity when the enemy did not dodge and shoot. Safe Kran picked up the flashlight and checked the situation from front to back. While they were changing their bullets in turn, they were also checking the situation behind them to avoid being attacked by other enemies. The flashlight used to illuminate the rear belonged to Wang Qianglin. Hey, there are quite a few zombies on this road. What's going on? Isn't this road safe? Wang Qianglin picked up the intercom and contacted Cuddy. This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. After dealing with all the enemies, they lost at least 100 bullets, but they only walked less than 1/3 of the way. If the situation remains the same, the bullets they looted from Nico's bar will not be enough. After waiting for 10 seconds, the other party did not respond. Just when Wang Qianglin was about to call for the second time, Cuddy responded to her. Sorry, where are you now? How many turns have you made according to our map? Cuddy was going to use this question to locate the position of Clan and the others. While Clan and the others were dealing with the plague demons, the people who went to Nico's bar had sent back information. All the people there were wiped out. Except for the person in charge, Jiang, all the others died of gunshot wounds. There were traces of being looted on their bodies. All the bodies were hidden behind the bar. This shows that Nico's bar was not breached by zombies. The personnel who went there confirmed the situation in detail before reporting to the leader. He knew that the leader did not like his subordinates to report to him without knowing much, and then they would be silent when the leader asked basic questions. Are there any fewer weapons in the bar? The leader asked. The hidden weapons have not been touched, but 2 M16s are missing from the brothers who died. They are not judges, so they don't need conclusive evidence. The leader slammed the table and cursed angrily, damn guy. Who is the old recommender of Jiang? That person is designated to communicate with Jiang. I only know that the person is called Mike. The subordinate continued to answer. I called the default channel of Jiang's walkie-talkie, but no one responded. I know, you bring back the supplies you can take away, and just leave some weapons and ammunition here for our people who are out in an emergency." After the leader finished speaking, he contacted Cuddy and told him how to deal with Clan and the other two. The leader asked Cuddy to do three things: one is to confirm the other party's location, the second is to guide them to those dead ends according to the situation, and the third is to take people over to confirm whether they are dead. In addition, the leader also asked Cuddy to pay attention to not sending the troops into the mouths of zombies even if Clan and the other two are not dead. So after Wan Kyanglin told the other party her location, Cuddy pretended to look at the map, and waited for a few seconds before saying, "You continue to go forward, then take the passage on the right, go straight to the second fork and take the passage on the far left, then continue to go forward until a T-shaped intersection and then turn right. After a distance, there is an iron door on the left, from which you can return to the ground." As the other party spoke, Kellen held a flashlight in his mouth and took a pen to write down the other party's words on paper. "Is this new road safe? Don't you have only one safe road? The sewers are connected in all directions. Our passage is not a road, but an area." Cuddy defended the other party's encounter with danger in the sewers, so it's not strange that those zombie monsters would wander here. "You know the danger, so you don't come? Is this your service attitude?" Wan Kyanglin learned from Amir what the leader of the Savior organization cares about. Cuddy answered fluently, "We just cleaned up the area the day before yesterday. You saw a lot of dead zombies along the way, right?" This is the truth, so Wan Kyanglin did see a lot of dead zombies on the ground. At first, she thought these zombies were alive, just pretending to be dead like the T-virus zombies, but after a few attempts, she found that there was no problem, and they were deader than dead. "You haven't answered my previous question yet. Is the new route you provided safe?" Wan Kyanglin asked. Cuddy said with a bit of displeasure in his tone, "Didn't I say that? Those zombies will wander in the sewers. If you go there after we clean up, I can tell you for sure that it is safe, but now I'm sorry, I can't give you a definite answer." He felt that what he said was a bit unsatisfactory, so he improvised, "I have given you the route, you can choose which way to go. Anyway, we are not lying, both routes can go to the old city." But he regretted it after he said it. Wouldn't he be unable to know which way the other two would take? Then how could he lead people to confirm the other party's life or death? "I trust you again." Fortunately, Wan Kyanglin said what Cuddy wanted to hear most. "Okay, contact me if you have anything." After that, Cuddy adjusted the channel to contact the leader. "They are going to a dead end." "Received, the rescue team is ready, you can lead the team over according to the time." In fact, the leader can directly send a team to meet the other party in the name of escort, and then directly deal with the two people, but according to the report of the investigators of Nicobar, the combat effectiveness of Clan and the other two is extraordinary. In order to protect the lives of his men, using zombies to deal with the other party is the best choice. Of course, if those zombies fail to deal with Clan and the other two, and they are all dealt with by them, then the rescue team, that is, their professional combat force, will personally deal with the enemy. It was their rescue team that cleaned up the Harlan virus-infected people before. Most of the members were retired soldiers who were paid to do the work. Back to Kellen, the two talked with Cuddy, and Kellen walked towards the route Cuddy said, but he was pulled by Wan Kyanglin who was walking in front. The girlfriend said, "We will follow the specific route Amir said, that is, the original route." "What? But wouldn't that be dangerous?" Kellen was a little confused. His girlfriend had said so much to the other party before, but she didn't plan to follow the new route given by the other party. "Did you forget one thing?" Wan Kyanglin reminded. Cran thought about it seriously, and suddenly showed an understanding expression, saying, "Are you talking about what we did in Nico's bar?" "That's right. Judging from the time we took to get from the bar to the starting point of the sewer, it is enough for the other party to discover or even confirm that something happened in the bar." Cran heard Wan Kyanglin's words, looked at the weapon in his hand, and said, "The leader asked us about our weapons at that time. Was it because of suspicion? I don't know. I think he was not sure. At that time, it must be because of some boring principles that he didn't make trouble." Wang Qianglin paused and said, "The other party can become bigger and stronger. There must be his unique features. We can't underestimate him. Anyway, with our ability, if we follow the original route, there will be no problem as long as we don't encounter the night demon. The night demon is usually in the nest during the day, but the nest can't be built in a few days, and there shouldn't be too many wandering zombies, so it's safest for us to take the original route they have cleaned up." Once Kran already understood Wang Qianglin's thoughts. "That's right. The other party said before, anyway, we didn't lie. Both routes can lead to the old city. This is a simple word game. He didn't say that both routes are ways to survive, and we didn't question that he lied to us. Why he suddenly said this is worth investigating. Here is the silver and the silver. I remember you told me the story." Kran understood. Wang Qianglin nodded with relief. Kran was too easy to be deceived before and easily became a tool. "That's good to know. Let's go." Okay, Kran nodded and continued to walk in front. 10 minutes later, Cuddy led the savior team to chase Kran and Wang Qianglin. This is the time they usually reach the danger point. That dangerous point is not a zombie group, but a night demon nest. Otherwise, why would the savior organization be on guard at that entrance? However, in the past few days, those night demons did not cause trouble for their organization, but went out from the nearest sewer exit to find food. But the rescue team was doomed to return empty-handed, and when they chased to the other side, Kellen and Wang Qianglin had already left the sewer and arrived in the old city. Just as they left the sewer and the tracking signal on their bodies appeared again, Amir, who was waiting at the safe point he had set up, stood up, put on all his equipment, picked up the AUG assault rifle next to the chair, and began to chase to the old city. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 315. Just half an hour before Clan and others left the sewer, Luo Guang, who had dealt with all the night demons in the nest, found a strange thing, a half-formed night demon. The ribs pierced the chest and began to expose, but it was not as flexible as ordinary night demons, and its lower jaw was not split in half. In addition to these, other features such as skin peeling and revealing developed muscle tissue are very similar to ordinary night demons. This thing was kneeling in a pool of blood, and the pool was full of various people who had lost signs of life. Luo Guang even saw the bodies of infected people such as night walkers. Around the kneeling semi-adult night demon appeared a bunch of things similar to umbilical cords, connected to it, and seemed to be providing it with nutrition. The semi-adult night demon closed its eyes and did not react to Luo Guang's arrival. In fact, there were several night walkers defending around this strange night demon, and they did not trouble Luo Guang with other zombies because of the attack on the nest, but for Luo Guang, these guys were easily solved. From this point of view, the stuff in the blood and flesh pool must be very important to the night demon. In fact, it is true, because this is the reproduction method of the night demons, so the night demon, or the Harlan virus, has received a good evaluation in Wang Qianglin's mysterious organization, and is believed to promote human evolution. Coupled with the fact that the intelligence is not much degraded and the initial tribal social form, the researchers of the mysterious organization even put forward a hypothesis that the night demon is already a new species. After cleaning up the entire nest, Luo Guang left the sewer and came to a basement. Coming out of the basement, there is a central garden. Unlike the civilian area, the architecture here is closer to the Middle Eastern style, with a lot of stone used to build houses, red tiles and white walls, long corridors and tall semicircular arches. Luo Guang hid behind a pillar built with stones and reinforced with cement and lime, looking at the group of people walking on the second floor of the opposite building. Those people wore gray hooded robes that covered their entire bodies. The leader did not wear a hood, but a mask that looked like the sun. He held a thing like an incense burner in his hand, which was slowly emitting blue smoke. The earliest record of the city of Haran was around the early 13th century. According to the records of unearthed artifacts, a nomadic tribe composed mainly of hunters and gatherers came to this place at that time and found that there were lakes and mountains that could meet their dietary needs. Then they settled down in this beautiful place. This tribe was called Sons of the Sun, and the mask they wore for sacrifice was like a sun. However, as the times developed, this tribe gradually developed from a tribe into a secret sect, the Void Sect. Why is it not called the Sun Sect? The reason is very simple. It is too common. You can find many sects named after the sun god by searching on the internet. So these Sons of the Sun made up a statement that the Virgin Mary communicated with the sun god in a vague world of consciousness based on the special abilities of the Virgin Mary. This world of consciousness is in the void, so it is named the Void Sect. Although Turkey has freedom of belief, more than 98% of people believe in the same religion, so in order to avoid conflicts, they generally only spread and communicate in private, and will not actively promote it. But that was in the past. With the outbreak of the biochemical crisis in Harlan City, these people of the Void Sect found opportunities and developed many new believers. Luo Guang had collected these situations before coming to Harlan City. The Illuminati also used religion to cover up its ambitions and then grew stronger, so he would not ignore the intelligence of the Void Sect. According to records, the leader and spiritual guide of this tribe is the Virgin Mary, and this position is not hereditary. The people of their tribe have a special ability, which is to enter a trance state through self-guidance, and then get some enlightenment or see some disasters in this state. This ability is not available to everyone. It can only be said that everyone has this potential, but no matter how the times change, there will always be a person in this tribe who can flexibly use this special ability, and that person will become the Virgin Mary of the tribe. These things with a bit of myth and superstition are not what Luo Guang is most concerned about now. He is more concerned about a legend in this tribe. That is, when a catastrophic plague sweeping the world comes to the earth and ravages the world, the sun god will give enlightenment to the Virgin Mary from heaven, and then under the guidance of the Virgin Mary, he will come down from heaven to purify the earth poisoned by the plague. The matter of the research institute is just Luo Guang's guess. It is not surprising that the guys from the Void Church created a Harlan virus. Although the Harlan virus is currently only wreaking havoc in Harlan City and has not spread out, to some extent, this legend has begun to come true, so it is not surprising that these Sons of the Sun will appear. A biter appeared from the corner and collided head-on with those people from the Void Church, but what Luo Guang found strange was that the biter did not attack those people from the Void Church. Feeling strange, he did not choose to contact the other party, but took out his mobile phone to take the photo, and then used both hands to send the information about the night demon and the strange night demon in the nest to the Donald family, and asked them to forward it to Samus. Samus will talk about the various intelligence conveyed by his boss later. Let's focus on Luo Guang first. Luo Guang did not tell others that the people of the Void Church were not attacked by the enemy, but planned to investigate it himself. This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading. So what he had to do was to track those Void Church believers. The problem was that those zombies would not attack the believers, but they would most likely attack themselves, which would make it very difficult for him to track them. After thinking for a while, Luo Guang had a plan. He first looked up and down at his clothes and equipment to confirm that he looked like a survivor. Those Void Church believers were walking towards their destination, preparing to meet up with other believers. The masked man leading the way this time was a priest of the Void Church, also known as a priest, who was generally responsible for going to various places in the old city to find survivors for preaching. He came out this time because the sect received radio contact from the survivors, so he came to absorb the believers here. Suddenly a noisy sound appeared behind him. The priest looked back and saw that the new believers behind him moved left and right consciously, revealing space, allowing the priest to see the situation behind him clearly. I saw a young man with black hair and black eyes running out of an alley, with many zombies chasing behind him. The young man saw that he and others were not stopping, and shouted to run, and then approached them. The new believer seemed a little shaken, his body swayed, and his head hidden under the hood of his robe turned to look at the only person wearing a mask. The priest looked very calm. "The Virgin Mary will protect you, come close to me, follow me. This is a good opportunity." The new believers and those who have not joined, the unprotected people are solved by the infected, which is just right to deter the new believers and make them believe in the Virgin Mary more. Luo Guang saw that the group of believers followed the leader to the side of the road and made way. "Run! Follow me," Luo Guang shouted again, then ran directly to the side of the leader, grabbed his hand, and pulled the priest away. The hand holding the incense burner was so painful that Luo Guang held it, and he couldn't help but let go. The incense burner fell to the ground, and the blue powder inside was scattered on the ground. I don't know what the blue smoke is, so Luo Guang controlled his breathing and didn't inhale the smoke when he took the priest away. The new believers were stunned by this situation. According to the priest, after they joined the Void sect, they would be blessed by the Virgin Mary and survive the disaster. They had just verified this fact. But their backbone priest was captured. Now looking at the zombies approaching them, the experience of the previous survivors made them really not have the courage to gamble. With the first person running away, the others also ran away, leaving only a young girl who was unable to move because of fear. She just stood there, looking at the zombies approaching her, and was already scared to death. But the zombies did not attack the girl. They bypassed the area and continued to chase in the direction of Luo Guang, nor did they chase the new believers who fled in other directions. Luo Guang looked back and confirmed the situation of the hooded robed people. He didn't know that those people were just survivors who survived hard in the old city more than 10 minutes ago. He thought they were firm believers of the Void sect. In any case, the zombies did not attack those people. This situation is true. The priest tried to break free from Luo Guang's hand, but it was in vain. "You bastard, let me go," the priest who was dragged by Luo Guang shouted loudly. "I have the protection of the Virgin Mary, and zombies can't hurt me." Although their sect is superstitious, they still recognize zombies and did not come up with a new term to say that those people are sinners. If the Void sect defines zombies as sinners, it will be inferior and not many people will believe it. They are now adapting the legend of the sun god purifying the plague disaster in the world for propaganda. After all, people become zombies just by getting sick, virus, which is also in line with the plague. But Luo Guang didn't believe it, looking at him like a madman, and said, "Don't be crazy, how is this possible?" At a sharp turn, the priest was thrown directly by Luo Guang to the back of a car, and his eyes went black and he fainted. When he woke up again, he was already in a room, without turning on the lights, only the sunlight outside shone in through the glass window. Seeing that he woke up, a figure walked out of the darkness opposite the priest, just like the big boss in some games. "Who are you?" "I am the son of the sun." Luo Guang, who appeared wearing a sun god mask, silenced the priest with one sentence. "Don't be silent, I worked so hard to save you, you have to thank me." Luo Guang felt a little embarrassed. Hearing Luo Guang's words, the priest wanted to spit at him and cursed, "We have the protection of the Virgin Mary, we will not be attacked by zombies at all. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be knocked unconscious. You don't need to save me at all in this matter. Who understands what you say, who knows that zombies won't attack humans?" Luo Guang said without apology, his eyes turned, and said, "Why don't those zombies attack you? Is it related to the blue smoke?" The priest didn't answer immediately, as if he was thinking, and seemed to be in a daze, but then he seemed to be struggling, rolling his eyes and sweating. Luo Guang was not anxious, waiting quietly, carefully observing the other party's situation. A few minutes later, the priest said, if you really want to know, go to the temple in Harran to find me. I'm from outside, where is the temple? After a while of silence, the other party told Luo Guang the address. This temple is actually a famous tourist attraction in Harran. Not only the locals don't say it, but it is also a must-visit check-in point for outsiders, so the other party was silent. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Then we'll see you there. Luo Guang smiled and waved his hand, saying goodbye to the other party. After inserting the other party's sacrificial knife into the other party's forehead, he walked over and began to deal with the body, and added to the dead priest, "Holy Mother, you have aroused my interest." After the priest lost consciousness, Luo Guang gave him a shot of T. Veronica virus, special edition. As a result, he found that the injected virus did not take effect immediately. After a period of research, he discovered something. That is, there are other viruses in this priest's body. From some previous situations, the virus in this guy's body is likely to be the Harlan virus, which can explain why those believers were not attacked by zombies. In Luo Guang's original plan, he intended to let this believer become his undercover in the Void sect, just like the Berlin incident, and let the priest lead him into the core area of the Void sect or contact the higher level of the sect. Under normal circumstances, the priest infected with the T. Veronica virus should quickly respond to Luo Guang's questions directly, but the other party was entangled and struggling. This was the first time that his control ability had problems. Someone suddenly snatched control of the priest from him and prevented him from telling the secrets of the Void section. I think it should be triggered by some keywords. Although there is no evidence, Luo Guang guessed that the opponent was the Holy Mother of the Void sect. The result was that the other party won on the surface, but this was actually Luo Guang deliberately showing weakness, allowing the T. Veronica virus in the priest's body to lurk and deceive the other party. And he showed weakness to the enemy naturally in order to obtain more intelligence and pave the way for the subsequent battle with the enemy. The two sides may not really fight, but Luo Guang thinks that this kind of fight is more likely based on his past experience. From the fight just now, Luo Guang discovered one thing. This fight for control is not actually a confrontation between the two sides' consciousness, but a fight between two completely different viruses in the priest's body. In the fight, the T. Veronica virus has the upper hand. The number of Harlan viruses in the priest's body is dominant, but the combat effectiveness is far inferior to Luo Guang's special T. Veronica virus. As the battle progresses, the number of viruses controlled by Luo Guang is increasing. Because he doesn't know what the characteristics of the Harlan virus are, he needs to kill the priest with a flying knife to avoid any omissions, such as collecting more information about himself through this guy's ears and eyes. Although he doesn't know what the other party plans to do next, Luo Guang still decides to go to the temple as agreed, trying to dig out the truth about the Void sect. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 316. Samus was in the command center of the BSAA camp listening to the information reported back by the men sent out. Although she received the location map of the survivors in the civilian area of Harran City from her boss, she did not immediately tell Jill about it, nor did she report the situation to the Turkish military. The reason why she didn't tell Jill was because she was leading a team to the cargo center to investigate. Even if Samus told Jill about the survivors in the civilian area, it was impossible for the other party to come back immediately and rescue people. And if Jill knew about this, she would only be distracted by her thoughts. As for not reporting it to the Turkish military, it was because she wanted to figure something out. That is whether the Turkish military and FBC mentioned earlier that more information about the survivors in the new city was an intelligence error or deliberate. There are many locations for survivors in civilian areas given by my boss, and they are basically all not found on the survivor location map given by the military. Putting aside the Turkish military, the F.B.C's intelligence capabilities are not sufficient to allow such a mistake to occur. It's not like Samus has no intention of saving those survivors. He can just tell Jill about it when she comes back and then start the rescue operation. The FBC and the Turkish military seem to be focusing their attention and forces on the new city area, and they will not interfere with the B.S.A.S operations. Those people were all special forces of the Turkish military. Among the people seeing him off was the head of the Turkish military, Kadir Süleyman, with a worried look on his face. Afterwards, he seemed to be talking to the head of the FBC. There was a handshake ceremony between the two parties. As a result, Sam still sent out the investigators Gil had mentioned before to conduct some investigations on the FBC. The people who were squatting on the periphery reported something. The people who joined the task of joining the hotel in the new city were people from the Turkish military. This was not mentioned in the previous meeting. Because the Turkish military has always had a major task, which is to seal off the entire city of Harran to prevent the virus from spreading. Chief Süleyman should now be studying how to block the sewer system without damaging the sewer system in Harran city. Are there people from the military who boarded the helicopter? Or from the special forces? What mission do you think the other party was performing? Sams asked the investigator's opinion. The investigator thought for a while and said, since the people performing the mission are special forces, I don't think they are going to annihilate zombies. There is no need. For ordinary tasks such as annihilating zombies, it is enough for the army to do so. It can even be said that only FBC personnel are enough, but there is no need to send out special forces. Although they are all infantry, the price of training a special forces soldier is several times or even more than 10 times that of an ordinary infantryman. This is not economical. Rescue, destroying evidence, or collecting special intelligence, which one do you think? Sams asked the other party's opinion. Rescue. The investigator quickly answered the question. Sams nodded without expressing his thoughts and said, I understand. Next, you should pay attention to the return of the hotel mission helicopter. Remember, not being discovered is the first priority. The investigator nodded, but did not leave. With hesitation on his face, he asked, why should we investigate the FBC side? Aren't they also an anti-biochemical organization? He originally thought that when he came to BSAA, he would not encounter political struggles and could devote all his energy to anti-biochemical operations. Samu's side. She understood what the other party meant and said, I didn't say that the other party had any ambitions. We don't have the evidence, but I don't like the feeling of being deceived. She took out a piece of evidence and said, according to another intelligence source of mine, it was found that there are many more survivors in the civilian areas than the intelligence provided by the FBC. Is the source of this information authentic? You used to be a detective. Samus had investigated the other party's background when he was on the investigation mission, and continued, then you should also be able to deduce that it is easier to survive in civilian areas, right? The investigator nodded. At that time, the Zincan district was holding a sports meeting, and most people gathered in the Zincan district. The smaller number of people in the civilian areas made it easier to survive and was less likely to be forced to a dead end. But the FBC has focused all its efforts on the new city and made hotels the primary rescue focus. Let me make a guess without evidence. How many people will stay in the hotel during the opening ceremony of the sports games? I understand. I will continue to keep an eye on the helicopter situation. The investigator was persuaded by Sams, saluted and left the room. On the other side, Jill is advancing towards the cargo center. There are many zombie enemies along the way, but most of them are at the sports ground, so they can still be dealt with. The only problem is that the number of people in the team is a bit large and it is difficult to use. Although the roads in the new city are very spacious, it does not mean that people can stand in a row. They also need space to carry out various tactical actions. Alpha 1, this is the leader of the Echo team. After clearing out a group of enemies attracted by the gunfire, Crisp of the Echo team contacted Gil. Jill replied, please tell me. I suggest that we split up and go through the alleys on both sides. There is a road, so we can go 3 ways at once. Crisp proposed this to improve efficiency. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. The Wolf team also heard this suggestion and did not raise any objections. Wolf Mom agreed with this opinion, and it was she who raised this issue to Crisp. It was troublesome enough for her to lead 4 BSAA anti-biochemical recruits. Now they are crowded on one road, not only can't use their backs, but also waste bullets. So many people can't accurately divide the area they are responsible for, which often leads to the situation where several people's bullets hit the same enemy. The monster was robbed, which made the more irritable Fat Man Beltway quite complain. There were so many people shooting at the same time, he couldn't see who was robbing the monster with him, so it was difficult to get angry. But he didn't hide it, and complained to his captain through the team communication while shooting. Beltway didn't complain for no reason, this was indeed a problem. So Wolf Mother ordered her BSAA recruits to stop shooting and instead deal with the fish that slipped through the net and the enemies that attacked from the side. Although she felt that it was troublesome to lead new recruits, she still told them the reason for this arrangement while issuing this order. After pacifying the BSAA recruits, Wolf Mother contacted Crisp to communicate, and then asked him to make a plan and talk to Jill. After experiencing the Battle of the Atlantic Institute incident, the Echo Squad and the Wolf Squad got along well. The two teams also recognized each other's strength and developed a feeling of heroes cherishing heroes. As for why Crisp was asked to be responsible for making plans, it was because he had experience in this area, and Wolf Mother had no experience in commanding more than one team for so many years. In this regard, Chris and Jill also had the same problem, and had no experience in leading multiple teams to perform tasks. Jill thought about what Crisp said, and soon agreed to the plan, saying, "Okay, we'll meet at the freight center, and remember not to run too far alone." Got it? The voices of Crisp and Wolf Mother Rupert sounded at the same time, and then began to command the people in the team to move to the left and right sides. The current situation is different from when she was in STARS. She is no longer a small-time soldier, and she only needs to obey the orders of her superiors to carry out the mission. But a day is limited. Before, she had been learning from O'Brien how to manage the branch, and she had to learn and use the management of the European branch of BSAA, so she had no time to learn combat command. She chose to focus her learning energy on the above because of one thing, which is also her future plan. Jill intended to withdraw from the front-line battle because of what Luo Guang had mentioned to her, marriage. Considering the possible pregnancy and child care in the future, she thought about withdrawing from the front line and contributing to the antibiochemical in the rear. In this way, she can also realize her personal ideals while taking care of her family. Back to the present, Jill is reflecting on her command. She asked everyone to act together because she considered that the number of combat troops was at a disadvantage when facing the zombie group. If she split up the troops, it would provide zombies and biological weapons with the possibility of defeating them one by one. This was her experience in biological events such as Raccoon City. But she did not consider the combat space. In modern warfare, it is not popular to concentrate a group of people together, otherwise they will be wiped out. So after solving the zombie group attracted by the gunshot and confirming the enemy's combat effectiveness, she should make adjustments immediately. Because she is the commander now, she needs to think about these things at the same time during the battle, instead of waiting for teammates to raise questions before thinking about them. After the three teams separated, Jill's teammates also dispersed slightly. Under Jill's command, two people formed a group and took turns to change bullets and shoot. The person who changed bullets was also responsible for protecting the teammates on both sides of the group, so that the teammates could concentrate on dealing with the front enemies. It was similar to the fighting style of Clan and the others in the sewer. However, this fighting style is only suitable for dealing with zombies that rush straight at them, and cannot defeat humans. After fighting in a dispersed manner, their combat efficiency did improve. Later, Jill made up his mind to divide his troops into two, and temporarily turn the three teams into two teams to carry out operations. Because Jill found that he encountered fewer zombies after leading the team to advance a few hundred meters, but according to the frequency of gunfire from the teams on the left and right, the number of enemies on both sides was much larger. Probably, the teams on both sides helped Jill and his team block a lot of enemies, so Jill faced fewer enemies. Therefore, there was such an arrangement to maximize the firepower of all people. The number of enemies in the new city area was within Jill's expectations, so Jill led everyone to the gate of the freight center, but did not go in immediately, but waited for the supplies arranged by Samus. Not long after Jill arrived, the sound of a helicopter came. The helicopter did not land, but controlled the speed of falling and put the two ammunition boxes hanging under the helicopter on the ground. Then the helicopter flew away from the cargo center, hovered in a certain place for a few circles and then left, providing time for Jill and others to open the ammunition box to replenish ammunition. The order of supply was Jill's Alpha team first, then the Echo team, and finally the Wolf team. When one team replenished ammunition, the other two teams were responsible for vigilance around, and did not relax their vigilance because of the noise of the helicopter. This chapter is not yet finished. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. The reason for choosing to replenish ammunition in front of the cargo center is that this place is very open to facilitate trucks to enter and exit for delivery, and it is convenient to deal with zombies that are attracted. Not only the zombies in the surrounding areas, but also the zombies in the cargo center were alarmed and ran to the gate. After clearing the enemies who attacked them, they were ready to search the cargo center. With previous experience, considering that they had to enter the indoor combat, Jill directly arranged the Wolf team to search the office area, while the Echo team went to check the situation in the open-air cargo yard. The Wolf team has shotguns, which can play a good role in the office area, while the Echo team has precision shooting rifles, which are naturally more suitable for outdoor operations. Jill's Alpha team is responsible for searching the indoor storage warehouse, which is more spacious than the office area and has relatively little demand for shotguns. Jill was about to give the order to start the operation when Samus called. Jill, the latest information. Samus received the information about the Night Demon from his boss and immediately conveyed it to Jill. Although the Night Demon hides in a dark nest during the day, Samus is not sure whether there will be such a place in the freight center, so he dare not hesitate at all. Jill raised her hand, signaling others to stand by, and then asked Samus, "Did your boss send this information? Is he in Harlan City?" She knew that Luo Guang and Wu Song, the boss of the GIMZ team, were the same person. The boss asked his friend to send this information. Samus thought about the situation and said, "As for whether the boss found this information, I don't know." Samus lost the fighting match with her boss. In addition, she also learned from other GIMZ soldiers that her boss might be the strongest in the army. So after she failed to get through to her boss's mobile phone and confirmed that her boss was not in the base in South Africa, she was not particularly worried, or it was useless to worry. As for Jill, she knew that Luo Guang's strength should not be underestimated. Her people did not encounter any danger here, nor did they see biological weapons such as the Goddess of Vengeance. Now her boyfriend has also sent her information about the Night Demon, the strongest enemy in this biochemical crisis. I think the Night Demon has not posed a threat to him, so Jill did not show any worries in order to protect Luo Guang's hidden identity. But when she sees Luo Guang again, she will educate her boyfriend. By the way, Samus, have you told the FBC about this information? Samus replied, "Not yet, I will tell them after I finish talking to you." As for the source of the information, she planned to hide it for the time being. "Got it, then we are ready to carry out the mission," Jill said, then hung up the communication and discussed the matter about the Night Demon with the other two team leaders. At the same time, The FBC troops carrying out the mission at the Harlan Hotel encountered the Night Demon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 317. The Harlan Hotel still has electricity supply, but ordinary lights can't stop the night demons. In addition, the night demons can see at night and prefer dark environments. Therefore, the smart night demons who came to the Harlan Hotel smashed the light bulbs with various tools on a dark and windy night, instead of smashing the light bulbs with their bare hands. The night demons living in the new city are now concentrated in two places, one is the gymnasium, and the other is the Harlan Hotel. In fact, the night demons that appeared in the new city are basically mutated from the victims of the gymnasium. It's just because there are not many places suitable for the gymnasium as nests. So in order to better reproduce and meet the needs of living space, some night demons took advantage of the night to go out and find other suitable places to live. And the towering Harlan Hotel is their best choice. FBC naturally made some preparations for the possibility of encountering night demons in this hotel operation. Although the ultraviolet version of the tactical flashlight has not been delivered yet, some ordinary ultraviolet lamps in the shape of cheering sticks are still equipped to the team just in case. In addition, a weapon named UV grenade is also under development. This special weapon for the night demon is led by the FBC Military Equipment Department, and a preliminary production plan has been prepared. Although only Harlan City needs to face the night demon now, who knows whether the Harlan virus will spread. So even if the UV grenade has not been developed after the end of this biochemical crisis, the FBC will not shelve this project. Because in addition to the FBC, NATO countries also have a stake in this military equipment department. Compared with the BSAA, the F.B.CS equipment is more luxurious, all equipped with night vision goggles and IR laser indicators, and all weapons in hand are equipped with silencers. Basically, every soldier of the FBC has a Christmas tree, referring to weapons hung with various tactical equipment. So the dark environment in the hotel will not affect their actions. The FBC team leader who was walking in the front suddenly raised his left hand and signaled the people behind to stop. He found something wrong. He pressed the light switch, but none of the bulbs on the road for more than 10 meters were lit. He carefully checked the nearest bulb and found signs of human damage. Although the team leader did not know much about the situation of the night demon, he only had some combat intelligence. The fear of light and ultraviolet rays was just a guess by the FBC Institute, but no matter what, his intuition told him that the situation was not right. So the team leader made two gestures, there is a situation ahead and beware, and then put his hand back on the vertical grip of the assault rifle and continued to move forward. The hotel was very quiet, but the blood on the ground told everyone what had happened here. There was no body, so the team leader followed the blood and went all the way to the next floor. A large pool of dried blood appeared on the ground, but there was still no body. This floor started to go down to most of the guest room area on the 7th floor, with several gyms and indoor heated swimming pools inserted in the middle. Start sweeping the guest rooms on both sides. Their main task is to eliminate the enemies in the hotel. It is worth mentioning that the special forces of the Turkish military did not set out with them, and were still preparing on the rooftop. The special forces had a clear goal and did not plan to go up the stairs to the guest room where Suleiman's brother was. Instead, they took advantage of the bright sun to rappel directly from the rooftop, landed from the hotel's outer wall to the balcony of the target guest room, and then found the VIP target and returned to the rooftop. If everything goes well, this VIP rescue mission will not consume a single shot. Let's return to the FBC troops. The doors of the guest rooms on both sides were locked. These doors were not inductive, but mechanical door locks, which required iron keys to open. According to the instructions above, as long as their troops confirmed that the door was locked, they could temporarily put it aside, and there was no need to clean up and confirm the situation inside immediately. So they did not use the underhook shotgun to break in, but two team members took out the spray paint bottle and sprayed a white X on the door, indicating that it was not confirmed to be safe here. Continuing to move forward, no victims were found. The FBC team leader reported the situation and received the order to continue to move forward and confirm the situation. The group walked to the middle of the corridor, and a blood-red meat stall began to appear on the ground, with something like a blood vessel slowly pulsating on it. If Luo Guan was here, he would definitely find that this was very similar to the umbilical cord connecting the semi-adult night demon. Suddenly, the team leader found a guest room with an open door in front of him, and immediately sent two of his soldiers to confirm the situation. The two soldiers came to the opposite wall of the door, as far away from the door as possible, and then looked inside. The enemy is a zombie, and it has no ability to attack from a distance. It is larger when it is close and smaller when it is far away. It is safer to observe and confirm the situation in this way. Behind the door of the guest room, passing the toilet door, you will reach the position of the bed. You can confirm the safety of some areas of the guest room at a glance. The two did not find the figure of the zombie, but the whole room and the ceiling were covered with things like meat stalls. The two soldiers breathed a sigh of relief and began to enter the guest room to confirm the situation. "Be careful here." One of the soldiers pointed to the door of the toilet and asked him to open it. The other soldier nodded to show that he understood, raised his gun and covered from the other side. After gently pushing the door open, the covering soldier quickly walked in to confirm that there were no zombies ambushing in the toilet, then came out to meet his teammates and entered the bed area. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. The two walked to the big bed. It was pitch black inside. There was no sunlight leaking into the guest room from the floor-to-ceiling window on the balcony. "Is this the thing that blocks the sunlight from coming in?" The soldier who discovered this abnormality walked to the balcony and touched the meat stall covering the floor-to-ceiling window. The meat stall felt like touching pork, soft, slippery, sticky, and trembled slightly when touched. "Ah," but the teammate's answer was a scream of fear. A night walker suddenly stretched out his hands from under the bed, accurately grabbed the soldier who was still standing by the bed, dragged him to the ground with force, and tried to drag him under the bed with both hands. The poor guy who was caught was lying face down on the ground, twisting his waist hard, trying to aim his gun at the enemy. He was afraid that he would break his leg if he fired randomly. But the opponent was very fast, and he was calculating without intention. Before the opponent fired, the night walker under the bed opened his mouth and bit directly at the back of the opponent's calf without soft armor protection, and forcibly pulled off a piece of cloth-covered meat. The painful wail sounded, and the bitten soldier, stimulated by adrenaline, didn't care so much, and pulled the trigger directly, but the bullet was basically empty, and a stray bullet hit his teammate's leg. The soldier hit by the stray bullet was also tough, falling to the ground without a word, and didn't care whether he would hit his teammate's leg, and shot directly at the bottom of the bed. The captain of the FBC team was originally going to enter the guest room to rescue his men at the first scream, but seeing the bitten guy shooting randomly, he immediately stopped and retreated to prevent accidental injuries and stray bullets, until he led the team in after the gunfire stopped and rescued two people. However, after the bitten soldier stopped bleeding, he was tied up and placed on a simple stretcher, ready to be sent to the FBC Research Institute to become a human test subject for the vaccine being developed. FBC will not waste any tool. "This is a trap," someone in the FBC team said this. The team leader did not deny it, nor did he look back to see who said it, or hold his subordinates responsible for breaking the silent action rules. After removing the soldiers responsible for escorting the wounded back to the rooftop, there were only 5 people left in the entire team, including the captain, but the mission had to continue. Going deeper, they found that the blood-red meat stalls appeared in the guest rooms with open doors, and there was a night walker hidden under the bed. Going down another floor, there was a sound like the whistling of wind in the depths of the corridor. But the FBC team leader knew that it was not the sound of wind, but the roar of zombies. The Parliament Hall in the center of the hotel has now become the den of the night demons. A huge night demon opened his eyes and roared throughout the hall. It knew the arrival of the enemy through the perception of the meat stall. Several night demons wearing human skin clothes led a large number of plague demons and night walkers to the location of the FBC team. When the two sides met, facing the enemies who kept coming, the well-trained FBC team immediately deployed and used the narrow space of the hotel corridor to fight. The narrow corridor has both advantages and disadvantages. It can reduce the number of enemies faced at the same time, but the FBC troops' own defense line is also nailed to this position. The narrow passage makes it impossible for them to cover each other and retreat. Because the enemy is not a soldier with a gun, but a zombie who is not afraid of life and death, and will not stop moving forward because of fire suppression. Even before the zombie in front falls, the plague demon behind will grab the corpse and use the corpse as a human shield to the front. The night demon aimed at the right time, using the night walker and plague demon as cover. After the enemy entered its range, it directly jumped over the obstacle in front and crashed into one of the FBC soldiers. This night demon did not roar, and after breaking several ribs of the soldier under it, it did not make up for it, but rushed directly to the FBC team leader who was directing the battle. Its goal was to create chaos in the enemy and act as a troublemaker. Although many of the FBC people were ordinary soldiers, there were also elites. The team leader turned on the ultraviolet light as soon as he saw the black shadow flying over, trying to stop the night demon's attack and provide time for his men to deal with the night demon. However, this night demon did not lose its combat effectiveness directly as the Institute expected, but covered its eyes with one hand and its split lower jaw with the other hand, and crashed into the FBC team leader. The FBC team leader was not a vegetarian, and did not care whether he would accidentally hurt the enemy behind the night demon. He held the assault rifle in one hand and shot at the night demon. No matter how strong the night demon's physique was, he couldn't stop the bullet and fell to the ground. But he didn't have time to celebrate his survival. He shouted loudly, "Grenade! Let's retreat!" With the night demon's body, the captain could go back and report to the team, and a new group of people would come to carry out the mission. But when the night demon was messing around, the distance between the two sides was already very close, so his men threw grenades into the enemy group under the instinctive tendency of obeying orders, thereby reducing the impact on their own people. But this will lead to a problem. When throwing grenades, you can't shoot, the density of the barrage is reduced a lot, and the enemy is closer. The FBC soldiers faced the zombies approaching in front of them, and the battle line collapsed. The teammate in front of the captain was eaten by the hungry and thirsty night walkers, and he wailed, "Damn!" The FBC captain didn't even try to save his teammates, and didn't care about the body of the night demon, and ran away directly. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. If he doesn't run, he will have to face those terrifying zombie enemies himself. But how can ordinary people run faster than those zombies? A chill rose behind the captain, and he only heard a whistle from behind, and then a powerful force hit his back and knocked him to the ground. It was a night demon. But the monster did not bite the captain, but punched him hard on the head, and then carried the fainted captain on its shoulders and took him back. It was avenging its sacrificed companion and did not intend to let this person die so easily. Captain Jones Henry, the commander-in-chief of the FBC troops in the hotel mission, was directing the layout of the hotel rooftop defense line, planning various areas, and making this place a temporary command center. At the same time, this is also the frontier laboratory for FBC to study Harlan virus. Turkey will not allow FBC to study biochemical viruses outside the blockade area, otherwise what is the point of this blockade? So FBC chose to settle for the second best and chose to set up a command center, laboratory, and defense and epidemic control area on the rooftop of this hotel and the 2 floors below. Next, FBC will send more people to support, and after all areas are established, some researchers from the Harlan Virus Project team will come by helicopter to conduct research. At this time, the news that the combat team below encountered the Night Demon came, so Jones immediately threw down the pen in his hand and came to the monitoring station. These monitoring stations can see the situation of his men performing tasks. Coincidentally, he saw that the captain issued a wrong order. These grenades were not used at the beginning, and they were used only when the enemy approached. Isn't it stupid? Sign Alman, can we contact the outside now? Jones asked. Because of signal shielding, the temporary command center must install a signal amplifier on the antenna of the hotel to communicate with the outside world. So what the FBC combat troops encountered below is now only seen by the people in the temporary command center. A soldier wearing headphones in the command center turned his chair, looked at Jones, and said, "Just debugged, we can contact." Captain Jones told the general manager of FBC what he encountered and applied to send more combat troops. "That's no problem, I'll arrange it later." "How is the situation of the special forces?" the general manager asked. Jones confirmed with his adjutant and replied, "They are already carrying out the rescue plan. They just reported that they have met with the VIP." "Well, I understand. You must protect the safety of the VIP. Got it?" Jones put down the headset and said to the adjutant, "What is the progress of the rooftop now?" "The equipment has been set up and the defensive positions have been arranged. There are 2 entrances and exits on the rooftop, one on the east and west sides, and the 2 defensive positions are in those 2 places." "Well, go check it yourself." Jones felt a little worried and continued, "There is one more thing. You should arrange a few people to patrol the perimeter of the rooftop every night. I am afraid that those night demons will climb up from the outer wall." "Got it." The adjutant saluted and immediately went out to carry out the task assigned by his superiors. Jones looked back at the camera screen on the FBC soldier who had died, and found that those night walkers were dragging the soldier's body roughly, which made him frown. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Miao. Chapter 318. Although half of the team was wiped out by the enemy, the most indispensable thing in this FBC was soldiers. Besides, half of the team was still alive, so Jones didn't feel a trace of sadness on his face. Instead, he felt that this mission was very worthwhile. Although the team's mission of clearing the rooms on the 5th floor was not completed, it brought a lot of useful information to the FBC. For example, the impact of ultraviolet rays on night demons is not as high as expected, because those night demons wear human leather clothes on their bodies. For another example, regardless of life or death, these night demons will drag humans into their lairs. However, Jones has not yet seen what will happen after being dragged into the lair, because the camera and clothes on his body will be torn off by an infected person and thrown into a room full of garbage. These are important research information and represent the F.B.C's performance in the biological crisis in Harlan City. Jones, BSAA has provided new information about the Night Stalker. The person in charge of the FBC camp outside Harlan took the initiative to contact Jones based on the information provided by the BSAA. Jones checked the BSAA information through the screen and said in surprise, "These night demons may have the means to reproduce. This is completely inconsistent with the characteristics of other people infected with biohazards in recent years." If he hadn't obtained this information, the camp's general director would not have contacted Jones for remote command. "This is why I took the initiative to contact you. Next, I will temporarily change the focus of the mission and confirm whether the information that night demons can reproduce is true." The information Luo Guang passed to Samus mentioned the special features of night demon reproduction, or another word would be more accurate, transformation. A hypothesis put forward in the intelligence is that the night demons do not reproduce through reproduction movements, but transform infected people or humans into night demons using special means. If we want to confirm, then we can only send people deep into the night demons' lair, Jones said. This will cause our troops to suffer a heavy blow and there will be many casualties. You want the people over at BSAA to do it? Anyway, they were the first ones to discover the situation, which means they have breached a night devil's lair. The person in charge sent Jones an unclear picture, which was the cell phone photo sent by Luo Guang. B.S.A.'s mission does not require going through the sewers, which is more dangerous, so I suspect that the people sent by BSAA may be more than what they seem. As for you asking BSAA to investigate, they are not stupid. The person in charge has long thought about this and put it into action, but now the person sitting in the BSAA camp is Samus, who his boss Morgan also wants to take seriously. He didn't take any advantage in the opponent's hands. From this we can see why Samus is required to be in charge of B.S.A.'s rear headquarters. Otherwise, if it were Jill who was in charge, he would probably be like Chris in the Portland incident, accepting the mission without asking any questions. And we are the main force in this biological crisis. If we blame everything on BSAA, how will the NATO observation team view us? The general manager added, I am allocating manpower and resources, and we will be ready when they are ready, shipping to you. Jones had no choice but to accept the order and said, I understand. On the other hand, Jill and others from BSAA are investigating the freight center. Although it is said to be an investigation, in fact they can only look for any clues like a needle in a haystack. According to existing clues, the prisoners sent the Harlan virus zombies into the stadium through a truck. Because there were too many zombies in the truck, it was impossible to conduct an on-site investigation. We could only understand the situation through some uploaded surveillance footage at the time. First of all, there is a conspicuous trademark printed on this truck. The pattern is a cartoon version of an anthropomorphic bee. Based on the investigation based on this trademark, it was found that this company was registered shortly after the first biochemical crisis broke out in Harlan City. Investigations from shareholders and other aspects have yielded nothing. The registered business place is just an empty shell. All registered management such as chairman, financial controller, etc. have pseudonyms. The final result is no such person found. As for why such a shell company was able to obtain a license and become a supplier for the Harlan City Games, it was because the prisoners placed their funds on the people responsible for approval. For the sake of safety and confidentiality, those who have accepted bribes will naturally not conduct transactions openly under surveillance, so now there is not even a picture of the appearance of the suspected target. Those who take bribes have no choice but to make meritorious deeds and obtain a reduced sentence. The people from the Wolf team came to the office area, and there were a lot of zombies here. However, due to the opening of the sports meeting, most of the people here fished in the rest area, so after the wolves eliminated the zombies in the rest area, there were only a few small shrimps left in the area. Ninja Victor cracked the computer of the owner of the freight center and quickly found out the shell company's logistics situation through searching. Only Wolf Mother and Victor were in the office, while the others were on guard outside. Then he told Gil and Crisp the storage location of the goods and asked them to investigate where the goods had stayed. Sure enough, the surveillance video file is gone, Victor said while typing on the keyboard. Wolf Mom nodded and said, it's not surprising. Can the data be restored? This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. This is not my specialty. And the surveillance video was not deleted, but the entire hard drive was taken away. The location pointed to by the storage path of the surveillance video file does not exist. Although Victor said it was not his specialty, that was only relative to his other combat capabilities. After knowing the content of this mission, he also prepared various electronic props. In this case, let's go to other places to find clues. Since there are no clues here, let's go to another place decisively. Wolf Mom thought so. Victor shook his head and said, "Wait a minute, I'm checking the employee list of the freight center. According to my experience, since the zombies were transported out from here, I think there must be someone in this freight center to meet them. I just took a look at the employee code and found that there is a procedure for the acceptance process to confirm the correctness of the goods when the goods are delivered here," he added. Wolf Mom nodded and looked at the situation displayed on the screen. These people came to work at this freight center a month before the first biochemical crisis. In order not to miss the target, Victor expanded the scope of employment for a month and screened out the target. "I didn't resign after that. Well, I see, since the biochemical crisis has happened anyway, it doesn't matter whether I resign or not." Wolf Mom looked at the situation of those people and asked with a little doubt, "But would the enemy miss such a loophole? They have already sneaked in here and taken the hard drive. Who knows, maybe it's because of this guy." Victor focused his eyes on the body in the office. "In other words, the enemy may not have cleaned up because of the outbreak of the biochemical crisis in order to avoid trapping Harlan City?" With an acceptable explanation, Wolf Mom did not delve too much into the reason why the enemy did not clean up the clues. "No one is perfect. Who says that the enemy must be a person who has planned everything out?" "Wolf Mom, this person looks familiar," Victor said while printing documents and pointing to the photo on the computer screen. Since he asked Wolf Mom to confirm, it means that he is someone they are familiar with. Wolf Mother stared at the ID photo on the screen. It looked familiar, but she couldn't remember who it was. The person in the photo was a woman with short hair and looked ordinary. In the end, she still didn't recognize it. Time was limited, so she said directly, "No matter what, let's take the collected things back first." Because of the signal shielding, they could only use the most primitive method, physical transportation. Jill got the information given by Victor and led the team to find the area of a -8-8. This refers to the 8th district of the 8th district of the warehouse in Area A. Report. The same truck compartment as the one in the stadium was found. One of the BSAA soldiers found the target. Others go over to cover. Don't open the truck compartment yet. Jill gave the order immediately. Jill walked around the truck compartment. The image of the cartoon anthropomorphic bee was indeed printed on the side. Then she walked to the door of the truck compartment and knocked on the door, and then retreated about 10 meters. Behind her, other BSAA soldiers were covering for the captain. There was no knocking sound from the truck, but Jill did not take it lightly. She approached the door of the truck again and opened the latch on it. After opening the door, Jill immediately moved away to one side to let her men out of the line of sight. There was nothing inside, no zombies, and no honey jars. Jill looked at her men in the distance, and after receiving a response that there were no zombies inside, she raised her gun and looked into the truck. A faint smell of blood came, and she saw several corpses. She walked in cautiously and confirmed the corpse closest to her. "It's an employee of the B Company." Jill turned the corpse over and said to herself. The BSAA soldier behind saw Jill's action. After asking the captain's opinion, they changed their formation. 3 people went to help Jill investigate and collect evidence, and the other 4 guarded the truck compartment. These corpses were all silenced. "Collect the evidence and remember to take photos." After confirming that there were no infected people pretending to be dead, Jill said something and walked out of the truck. Crisp also received the message from Victor. However, there was no inventory area of the anthropomorphic B Company in the open-air storage area he was responsible for, so there was no need to change the plan. Rose Sienna from the Echo team came to the top of a truck gantry crane, close to the 3rd floor, which was the highest place in this storage area. After patrolling with the weapon in her hand, she reported, "There are no zombie groups around, but there are too many blind spots in this place. I can't see the situation over there now, so you all be careful." Crisp, who was also in the blind spot of Sienna's vision, replied with a word of receipt, and then turned his gaze to Lawrence, a battlefield virologist kneeling on the ground, and asked, "Have you finished collecting blood?" Lawrence nodded, put the glass test tube into a special preservation box, and said, "Just received the goods." Harley Aries is the medical soldier in the team. As an upright person, he looked at the actions of everyone and said a little uneasily, "Do we really want to do this?" The Echo Squad was sent by the Lighthouse Country military to the GIMZ force as an undercover agent. The original purpose was to gain anti-biochemical experience, find out about biochemical crises in various places, and eventually contribute to the anti-biochemical organization of the traditional military forces. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. But after the FBC was established with the support of the traditional military forces, their team was not called back, but continued to stay in the GIMZ force on standby. Because the FBC absorbed the more experienced Red Claw force, in this case, there was no difference between one more or one less Echo Squad. And the mercenary nature of the GIMZ force also allows the Echo Squad to perform some biochemical tasks that the FBC could not get approval to intervene. This is equivalent to buying an insurance, so the head of the Echo Squad in the military did not call the Echo Squad back. After that, the two actions of FBC after its establishment were not satisfactory. I won't say much about the Portland incident, because there were omissions that led to the expansion of the scale of the disaster. Now the same is true for Harlan City. Although there are people who sabotage, for the NATO and Lighthouse military, what they want to see is the results, not the process. Obviously, they are very dissatisfied with the handling of these two biochemical crisis incidents. So the NATO observation group came, and the BSAA also joined the biochemical crisis as a third party and was no longer under the unified command of the FBC. Therefore, after the traditional forces of the Lighthouse military received Sienna's contact, they gave the ECHO team the task of collecting blood samples of the Harlan virus. The FBC had already collected samples of the Harlan virus, so why did they let the ECHO team do it again at the risk of being discovered? There were two people with two different reasons who facilitated this matter. One is the director of the New Blood Epidemic Research Institute, which is completely controlled by the traditional military forces. This New Blood Plague Research Institute was rebuilt after the secret research institute in Tramboldfors was destroyed. As for its real name, it is a number, and the word blood plague is not written on the signboard. Calling it the New Blood Plague Research Institute is just for the convenience of internal personnel to remember which institute is conducting research on which project. Now the director of this institute knows about the Harlan virus and intends to use the Harlan virus to strengthen his favorite, the blood plague virus. Although the FBC Institute has obtained the Harlan virus, for confidentiality reasons, the director of the New Blood Plague Institute cannot take the initiative to contact the other party. The military personnel who were entrusted to contact were obviously also blocked. The FBC Institute also has confidentiality regulations, and the Harlan virus cannot be given to other institutes casually. Morgan also cares about the Harlan virus and does not want to hand it over, so he uses various excuses to perfunctory the lobbyists who come. As a result, the director of the New Blood Plague Virus Research Institute has this last resort: if you don't give it to me, I will send someone to get it myself. The second person is Morgan, who does not know the arrangement of the director. He just wanted to frame the GIMZ force, or more precisely, the BSAA. He thought that since the FBC couldn't compete with these two organizations, he would compete with them to ruin the reputation of his competitors. It can be said that this is an upgraded version of the previous propaganda war against the GIMZ force. In fact, Morgan didn't think of such a conspiracy at the beginning, but the person who came to him for the Harlan virus woke him up and made him think of such a treacherous plan. He naturally wouldn't tell the head of the Echo Squad directly what he was going to do, and he didn't report it himself afterwards, but instructed people who have nothing to do with him to expose the evil deeds of the GIMZ force. The two people's respective goals were conflicting to some extent, but the two sides unexpectedly jointly facilitated this Echo Squad mission. Hearing Harley's words, battlefield virologist Lawrence put down his rolled-up sleeves and said in a joking tone, "When you are in the army, you can't help yourself."